West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand why agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him.
The Mile High City on this Friday, May 2nd.
April. Yes, now it's April. Yeah, I do that all the time, though. It takes me a couple of days to figure out the month change.
Speaking of blending things together, 710 KNUS is going to blend together a little bit with KOA today.
Yes, we are.
Coming up here in about 10 minutes. Ross Kaminsky is going to join us, which is going to be a ton of fun. He's a fellow with the Common Sense Institute. Has a new report out on TABOR and the importance of it, so you're not going to want to miss that. 7 o'clock hour, Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Council, is with us. They're finally cracking down on some crime. That's 3 strikes, and your car is out. And nearly 1,000 vehicles have been seized in Aurora. These are those cars that drive around without plates. You see them all the time. Aurora's gone after them and seized nearly 1,000 of them. We'll talk with Danielle Jurinsky in a little bit. Michelle Chandler is going to join us. Now, Michelle, you may not know the name, but you probably remember the story. She caught the dude in the Neiman Marcus filming her with a camera underneath the door.
Yeah.
And then opened the door and grabbed him and put him in a headlock for 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes. That's some endurance there. That's tip of the hat.
So I remember the story. I ran into her down at the Colorado State Capitol on Wednesday. She was testifying against 1312. And she's buff, dude.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah. So I was like, I could see why.
Yeah, I can see why you do this.
This little twerp ended up in a headlock for 20 minutes.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I do want to answer, and we'll bring Blake in on this one. What is the oldest temporary license plate that you've run across in your recent memory that you can, think about? Because, that's why the 3 strikes you're out. That's what they're seizing these cars for. People not registering, people not having license plates. And the only reason I asked that is because I ran into one recently, and I'm going to hold it up here, and we'll bring Blake Olson in a little bit early and ask him about it. And I'm going to see if I can hold it up to the camera, because you've got to see these temporary tags to see if it'll, see if it'll, will it? No, it won't focus. Focus. Oh, it won't focus. Okay. It is July 29th. Of 2022. Yeah, there are temporary tags on the back of a white Mini that is a convertible.
Nice.
2022.
Nice. Yeah,
damn,
that's crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah,
it's like, what? That's not a mistake. That's not an oversight. I don't care.
Yeah. Right.
That's not, I forgot. The paperwork got delayed.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got nothing there. It's ridiculous.
I've seen 23 before.
Dude. That is nuts,
But I see cars without license plates all the time.
Yeah,
I do too.
And not as much in the last year, but I see them all the time.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I do too, and I run into them in the weird places, normally like highways, not city streets.
Yeah,
and that's the weirdest part. Is I don't know why. I don't know what. It's just, it might just be number of cars, the number of cars you run into based on highways and traveling. But I don't know if it's anything statistical.
I always find it interesting when you run into the Mexican license plates.
Oh yeah,
like Chihuahua.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Chihuahua.
Like, really? That's okay.
You're like, okay, just I guess you could just drive here from Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. There's some permits and things you have to do. But the other one is, I just can't. I'm always worried about, they're going to notice that the little color of the sticker in the corner of my license plate, that they're going to catch me because I didn't renew it right exactly on the right month. Because, I'm normally a couple of weeks late.
Yeah, right.
But,
right.
I should be worried about that.
Yeah.
Dudes run around with 2022 license plates.
2022, that guy back there?
Yeah, 2022, that's nothing. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Well, and in Aurora, they have this 3 strikes. So if you do not have a license plate and you are not insured and you don't have a driver's license, that car is out of here.
Good. Absolutely good.
Good deal.
Good. And I'm just saying that one of the 3 of us recently in our lives may have had a young daughter have to go and experience the joys of emissions testing. And let's just say that I tried to warn her, and after she came home from that exercise in personal torture, and her car failed. Yes, so I got the "I'm never doing that again" speech. And so like, you're gonna drive without being registered. I don't care. I see cars not registered all the time. Like, I know, but they'll take your car technically and. Fine. So yeah, she went back and got it the emissions, but I did. Everyone knows that outburst of emotions that you have at that age when something like that happens. But yeah.
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that was fun. That was
Very
great.
well,
But we got Ross Kaminsky coming up here in about 5 minutes, so let's get to some news with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 38 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 64 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Today I'm also asking you to look forward to really something very, very bright and more promising. And it's going to be an even more promising tomorrow, I promise you that. You're the first graduating class of the golden age of America. We're in the golden age. You watch. It's the golden age.
DJT speaking to the graduates at the University of Alabama. Of course, he criticized rogue judges, woke garbage on the left, and all the things you'd expect. But he gave grads hope, and age is just a number.
In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. I was 28 when I took my first big gamble to develop a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, the Grand Hyatt, and it worked out incredibly well. But I was very young at the time. I was like a very young person in sort of an old person business. Steve Jobs was 21 when he founded Apple. Walt Disney was 21 when he founded Disney. James Madison, James Monroe, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson. They were no older than 25 when they began the journeys that etched their names into the history books for all time.
Love it. Young people need to hear that. Former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is now DJT's nominee to be the U.S. ambassador to the UN. About 24 hours ago, 47 announced the nomination on the same day that reports came as Waltz was resigning as National Security Advisor. Waltz faced scrutiny for mistakenly adding a reporter to a Pentagon group chat discussing plans for a military strike. The Fort Carson soldier who was arrested Wednesday on federal drug charges, Army Staff Sergeant Juan Gabriel Aurora Rodriguez, sold cocaine to an undercover DEA agent. The week of April 21st, authorities added that Aurora Rodriguez appears to hold a leadership role for a business that provides security to the nightclubs, including the one raided in Colorado Springs last weekend. Fort Carson officials said that they are aware of a soldier aware that a soldier was arrested and will cooperate with the agencies involved in the investigation. The body cam of the patrolman who pulled over Kilmar Garcia when he was illegally trafficking, obtained by Fox, one of the many laws that Garcia broke while in the States.
Just look. How many rolls have you got in here? 4?
And my computer broke down. Doggone it. Oh, well, it was good stuff. I'll play it next hour. And this is a compliment to the officer. It sounded like Gomer on the Andy Griffith show, pulling him over. He was so nice and kind, and Kilmar had like 30 people in the car. That's an exaggeration, but he was trafficking. A Denver sheriff's deputy has been accused of stalking and harassing an 18-year-old girl. The Denver Sheriff's Office says Deputy Christian Dionda has been placed on investigatory leave following his April arrest by the Firestone Police Department. The girl was allegedly subjected to several weeks of harassment, including a slashed tire and text threats. After meeting Dionda online, the 24-year-old deputy faces multiple charges, including harassment, stalking, criminal mischief, and felony menacing. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at LairFireplacePatio.com. The Avalanche facing elimination last night, and they beat the Stars 7-4. It heads back to Dallas tomorrow at 7 o'clock. The Nuggets tried to nail the coffin on the Clippers, and they lose it 111-105. Clippers Game 7 in Lodo tomorrow night. 35 in Golden, 36 in Lone Tree, 38 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a cloudy, cool start to your day here in Denver with areas of morning light rain showers. Then there will be a couple of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, highs 50s and lows 60s. Showers ending tonight, lows near 40 degrees. Sunny, nice day Friday, 60s, near 40 Friday night, warming to the 70s and sunny Saturday. 70s and sunny Sunday, but Sunday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms likely. Showers and thunderstorms likely Monday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, Bill, I got to give you this joke from Jason in Denver.
Okay.
Because he texted it in.
Oh, good. Now, I haven't been looking at the text, so I have
hilarious.
no idea. This is going to be a surprise.
It's a little like Jordan Hudson metaphorically driving Bill Belichick around. His plates expired years ago.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's good. Oh, my God. That's
Jason,
fantastic.
that's hilarious.
Nice job, Jason.
All right, Bill, I need your best wrestling introduction because it's like a guy who's come on over
Yes,
from the
it
other
is.
wrestling
It
league.
is.
to
All
hang
righty.
out with us.
Okay, here we go. Got to warm up. Okay. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we, the Jeff and Bill Live Show, proudly bring to you a man who needs no introduction, yet we're going to give him one. This is someone who has been invading Denver airwaves for years, bringing truth, thought, common sense, something we normally don't allow on this program. But for him, we will make an exception. This is the master of the microphone, the talk radio dominating voice in mid-mornings here in Denver. Ladies and gentlemen, as we direct your attention to the curtain, we proudly welcome Ross Kaminsky. Welcome, sir.
Oh my God! Well, you absolutely made my day. I think I just need to go back to bed now and call it a day. Oh my, that's fabulous.
Welcome, sir. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. But have you actually done that at wrestling or some other sports event? You should.
A handful of times, yes. Yes, sir, I have. Yes.
You sound like a pro. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
We literally just threw it to him, too.
Yeah, I had
There
no
was
idea.
no
That was off the
prep
top of my
for
head.
that. I'm
No
like,
prep.
we didn't even talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, so he's a wrestling fan. We talk about it, and then I just go, Bill, you got to introduce Ross like he's a wrestler from another league coming in and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I've got this world view that a lot of talk radio in some of the world is really just pro wrestling. Their shoots, their works, and so that's part of it. It's sort of an inspiration from my work with Peter Boyles, but that's the idea. So yes, I'm glad you enjoyed that, sir. Welcome.
Love it.
So Ross, while working at 850 KOA, also serves as a fellow over at the Common Sense Institute, and we're bringing him on today to talk about a new report coming out about TABOR, the legislative assault on TABOR, how Colorado lawmakers are rewriting the rules. Thanks for joining us to talk about this, Ross.
Yeah, glad to do it. This is my first report as the Mike Leprino Free Enterprise Fellow at the Common Sense Institute, and it's a massive privilege to be associated with these guys. They are just so smart, nonpartisan, just great analysis. And, for your audience, I doubt there's anybody in your audience who doesn't know how much Democrats hate TABOR and how much they're trying to weaken and eventually eliminate TABOR. But I think even among your audience, you might not know how successful they've been at it.
And that's the heartbreaking part of this. I always love having Common Sense Institute on because I think they're doing the very best research in the state when it comes to the impact of our policy decisions on our actual wallets, on our lives, on the state itself. And then you read the reports and it's just this kind of gut punch because they expose how much money we're spending, for instance, on environmental policy, or in this case, how much we're losing as a result of the legislative assault on TABOR. Let's get into the facts here. What are we learning?
Yeah, and so I'll just elaborate just one thing before we get to the numbers. So in this report, we're learning two things. One is how much we're losing by the legislative assault on TABOR. The other is how much we're gaining by having TABOR in place and how much we have to lose if they're able to get rid of it. And I'm sure you've talked with your listeners in the recent past about the lawsuit where they're trying to eliminate key parts of it. But what the researchers at Common Sense Institute have found is that the fact that the state has to return excessive taxation to the taxpayers of Colorado accounts for about 16,000 private sector jobs a year being in existence, with that money staying in the private sector. Nearly $3 billion a year in GDP, nearly $10 billion a year in personal income. These are real because of the multiplier effects of money being in the private sector and how much more efficient that is than money being spent/wasted by government.
That's Ross Kaminsky. You know his voice from 850 KOA. He's also a fellow with the Common Sense Institute, and they've got a new report out about TABOR. This is essentially, bottom line, making the argument that TABOR has a tremendous impact on the economy. It's an engine for driving the economy, and it puts restrictions around how much the state can spend in its own tax dollars. So it has an important factor there. But bottom line, if Democrats continue to dismantle TABOR, what's going to happen to Colorado?
Yeah, well, in that case, we start, I think, turning into something like Illinois. And I don't know, how many folks listening right now are nerdy enough to know about Illinois' financial troubles, but I used to live there, and it's just an absolute basket case. Look at California as well, and the many billions they're having to cut. It's just a recipe for government getting out of control. And then what happens, guys. Government will put in place these programs, and then they'll run short on money, and then they'll be unwilling to cut back any programs, and so they'll say, we have to raise your taxes. And in a state this blue, they will raise our taxes because there's nobody in a sufficient position of power to protect us.
That voice is Ross Kaminsky. You hear him daily, weekdays on 850 KOA. He's joining us in his role as the Common Sense Institute Fellow. We're talking to him about something that is a regular conversation here on the Jeff and Bill Show, how the Democrats want to get their hooks into TABOR. They think giving you back the tax money that they didn't spend is a bad idea. Surprise. They never meant a pile of money they didn't want to spend on you. Now, Ross, what I want to talk about is how the percentage of the budget that is determined through fees, the way the Democrats have gotten around TABOR, has grown exponentially. Can you kind of outline for listeners what percentage of the budget is made up of fees and what percentage of our budget is roughly made up of TABOR? Just to start the conversation.
Right. So I have to admit to not having that number at my fingertips, but I can give you an answer that kind of addresses it. And this also comes from the Common Sense Institute, although from a different report not that long ago. Right now, we have a nominal income tax rate in the state of Colorado of, I think it's just under 4.5%. It's been changing in recent years. If you included the fees as taxes, our tax rate would be in the mid-sevens. So that gives you a sense, the fees make up somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% as much income coming out of our pockets as we're already paying in taxes.
Yeah, and I think it's somewhere, it's like almost a 2-to-1 on fees versus TABOR budget numbers. And it's weird that the Democrats have found a way to expand the budget by using fees and then complain about the smaller item in the budget going, but we need this smaller pile of money over here. They want more money about it. Now, talk to us about the efficiency and how, if we give the money to the Democrats and they get to keep all of the excess taxes they collect, how, based on your experience, both as a talk show host, but also working with the Common Sense Institute, how, based on their spending priorities, they are going to do more harm to the state than good, because you talked about the $3 billion in GDP growth, the $10 billion in personal income, because of that economic multiplier of how the private sector spends money. Talk to us about the dangers of giving the government more and more money because of the inefficiency and waste and just how they spend it. Mayor Mike Johnston couldn't find 40% of how he spent the money on the homeless initiative. So obviously they're just making sure they're counting all of our dimes and quarters and nickels when they send them there. So what's the danger? Because the Democrats will say, we just need more money to do better stuff. Why shouldn't we give them all of our extra tax money to let them do the better stuff?
You know what that reminds me of a little bit is back when Nancy Pelosi said nothing had a bigger positive multiplier effect than unemployment checks. I don't know if you remember that. And yeah. Of course, the logical extension of that is we should fire everybody and give and redistribute all money as unemployment checks, and then the economy will be much better. But that's the mindset of the left. But to answer your question at least a bit, think about what Democrats have demonstrated their priorities to be. And by the way, I wouldn't say that Republicans are always fabulous in this, right? If you look at typically Republicans in government will also find ways to waste some money, but the real pros at it are Democrats, and anyway in this state, Republicans have no influence. So it really is about Democrats, even though, Common Sense Institute is nonpartisan, the way the state is right now, it really is about the Democrats. So think about what their priorities have been, right? They put forward a ballot measure, and so actually the blame is on the voters, but free lunch for all school kids, even though school kids of lower incomes were already getting free lunch. So the ballot measure was free lunch for, upper middle class and rich kids to be funded by essentially reducing, and now they're trying to all but eliminate tax deductions for people making over $300,000 a year. I don't think anybody imagines that somehow there's a large positive multiplier effect by free lunch for rich kids while discouraging people who are the most productive people who might make $300,000 a year. You're discouraging them from even being in Colorado now because it's effectively a massive tax increase. What about so-called free, right? We need to make sure people understand that free, when government says it, really just means paid for by somebody else. So what about free babysitting? That's called pre-K, but it's free babysitting. And that's another thing. You don't have to be an economist to understand that when you do that kind of stuff, you are not going to get the velocity of money, the positive multiplier effect that you will get if citizens keep their own money. Maybe they buy something with it. Maybe they start a business with it. Maybe they invest it in a bank or a mutual fund or something where that money gets back into the economy to help businesses grow. And I think everybody understands just how much less efficient government is than the private sector. And if I could just add one more thing that isn't directly responsive to your question, but it's related. One of the really important things about TABOR is that it prevents government from resetting its baseline spending higher when they have a year where they collect a lot of taxes because they have to give the excess back. So in the couple years after COVID, when that federal helicopter money where they were stealing our children's futures to buy votes now, when the taxes around that money were coming in, there was this massive increase in state income taxes and sales taxes because people were shopping so much and people had all this helicopter money. So without TABOR, you had this, let's say, billion dollars increased revenue to the state. Without TABOR, they would make that the new baseline. And now every year after that would be at least that high because in the real world, government never cuts spending, and we would become a financial basket case in a hurry.
That's Ross Kaminsky, the voice from 850 KOA. He's also a fellow with the Common Sense Institute new report out titled The Legislative Assault on TABOR, How Colorado Lawmakers Are Rewriting the Rules. Here's some of the facts that they are arguing from fiscal year 21 through fiscal year 25. State legislation has reduced TABOR refunds by more than $2.3 billion, an average of $736 per filer. This amount is likely to grow as more bills are passed during the 2025 session. The economic benefit of TABOR: surpluses from 2021 through 2025 up to 26,000 new jobs, $2.9 billion of GDP, and $2.5 billion in personal income. It makes a difference to have this money in the pockets of Coloradans, not in the coffers of the state. And they do a great job making that argument. Now, Russ, it seems like, we passed Prop 117. We have TABOR, and Democrats down at the state capitol spend a significant amount of time figuring out how to undo these. So the voters go, we want to restrict what the state can spend. We want to restrict these fees. And then we elect people who sit in office buildings coming up with lawsuits to try to overturn the things that the people already voted for. Help me understand this disparity in Colorado, and is TABOR under real threat, you think?
Yeah, so those are all great questions. First, I think that it's reasonable to think of us as East California now, although that might not be fair to California because there's a lot of stuff that our voters vote for, really terrible ballot measures that wouldn't pass in California anymore, probably, because they have suffered the pain of this kind of government and they get it. And we haven't had enough pain yet here, apparently, for our people to get it. So, yes, they will pass things like 117. But voters did also pass the free lunch for rich kids, right? So I think part of the problem is that we have imported so many Californians and so many left-leaning voters from other states that Democrats feel, and they're probably correct in this, by the way, Democrats feel that there will be no political punishment for them for going as far left as they want to go. And they're just going to keep doing it until they're stopped. The other thing that's important to know is that we have a really terrible state Supreme Court when it comes to these issues. It might actually be a little better than it was 10 years ago, but it's still bad. And the state Supreme Court is the group that allowed the legislature to get away with calling taxes fees to get around TABOR. And that's also not going to change for a long time because the only way it changes is if we get a Republican governor and then a bunch of Supreme Court justices, state Supreme Court, retire. So I don't see that happening either. So I don't see very much hope for us except to the extent that with shows like yours and maybe like mine, we can educate voters to stop voting for dumb stuff when it comes up as ballot measures and maybe provide a little bit of punishment to state legislators who keep voting for this stuff. And is TABOR under threat? TABOR is under its biggest threat ever. The state legislature has passed, I think both chambers have, but at least one has, a joint resolution that orders the lawyers for the state legislature itself to file a lawsuit challenging key parts of TABOR as a violation of the state constitution. And if that goes to court, now, I think the legislature will probably lose, but again, with this Supreme Court, you never know. What'll be interesting about it is taxpayers will be funding the lawyers to challenge Tabor and also funding the lawyers at the state attorney general's office who will be defending Tabor. I do have to hope, given who's in the state attorney general's office right now, we all have to sort of cross our fingers that they will put on an energetic defense of Tabor, because some of those folks might not really believe in it.
I think you're exactly right in your analysis. That's Ross Kaminsky. He's a fellow with the Common Sense Institute. New report out, The Legislative Assault on Tabor, How Colorado Lawmakers Are Rewriting the Rules. Go to commonsenseinstituteus.org to learn more about the great work they're doing. As I've said time and time again, they are the tip of the spear, the very best in nonpartisan, factual research as to how our policy decisions are affecting the average Coloradan. Go to commonsenseinstituteus.org, commonsenseinstituteus.org. I'm a donor, supporter of the great work that they're doing. Ross Kaminsky's a fellow with them. Go check out that report. Ross, great job. Thank you for taking time to join us, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for the best introduction of all time.
I appreciate it.
Go clip that and add it to your show for sure.
Yeah, please do. It's all yours, man. Have a good one.
Ross Kaminsky. All right, want to talk to you about our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. Guys, if you're losing your hair and desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Pauls, modern technology, and best of all, you get your very own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now at 720-459-HAIR. 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver 2 years in a row now and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait any longer. Check out the before and afters online for yourself at 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com, 720-459-HAIR. Oh, I mean, good analysis, Bill. They give you the numbers of how Tabor affects our economy, and when you pull that money, which is literally coming from the pockets of Coloradans, you harm the economy. So,
yeah, and there is an economic multiplier that happens with government spend, but it doesn't necessarily have the same multiplier as private spend. Just how quickly I don't want to say trickle down is the wrong way to use that term, more the idea of how quickly the money filters through, that it just takes longer, it's more complicated, and the government spend is slower. And so the private spend is faster. That's a better way to describe it, that it moves quicker. It's basically you've got two rivers, and one is just flowing quicker than the other. And the private spend, because of market efficiencies, spends money more efficiently than the government does. They both have an economic benefit, but Ross and the Common Sense Institute absolutely right that you're talking about 16,000 jobs. You're talking about a large increase in state GDP. You're talking about a large increase in personal income simply because of the mechanism of how the money is spent, because we spend it much quicker in terms of the private sector. So it has a chance, the money that is spent immediately from the company that goes to either the employees or to a supplier is then turned around immediately and spent on other things, which doesn't happen in the same process as quickly as far as the government. There are more steps involved and more middlemen. And so you don't get the money moving as quickly. So that's where they're seeing that economic benefit, and it's significant. And we have to keep our eyes on the fact that whether you like Tabor or disagree with Tabor, it has been proven to be one of the only reasons that Colorado is still even close to being fiscally sound. Now, we have a huge hole in our budget right now, but it is the reason that some of our spending has been constrained, like Ross outlined, when we had the windfall of money through COVID, because he's right that every time you get more money, the government always sets a new top baseline. And we we debate this and say this sucks all the time, both of us, and we debate the lawmakers where the state budgets, if you don't spend every penny, they lower your budget for the next year. So there's an incentive to spend that isn't there in the private sector. And that's part of the problem with the economic spend as well, as far as how and the efficiency of spending the money. That if you at the end of the school year, end of the budget year, anything else, end of the fiscal year for your hospital, are just trying to build more stuff, just trying to buy more stuff so that you don't lose the money next year. You're not spending the money efficiently. You're not going to have the same economic impact that you have with a private corporation. And the private corporation could hang on to that money, turn around and maybe spend it more efficiently the next year on different purchases. If you want to know why you see some of these state hospitals always under construction, because they have to spend the money. If they don't spend the money, they lose it. You're like, how come they can't ever finish the construction? That's built into the budget. They have to keep spending that money or they lose it. There's not an incentive for them to build efficiently. There's just an incentive for them to build. That's it. That's all.
Love to hear from you. Phone lines are open 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS, brother.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So, Bill, I went down to a Day Without an Immigrant rally at the Colorado State Capitol.
Hey, nice. How was that? Making friends?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Dude, we are infamous.
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
infamous. I think they all still like you.
Oh,
that's a
great.
crowd that likes you,
Yeah.
doesn't like me.
That's funny.
So I spent like 2.5 hours walking around and interviewing folks, mostly white liberals. There was a mariachi band, but mostly
funny.
what you would see, expecting kind of young white socialists down there.
Yeah.
But really interesting moment where I was approached by somebody and they said, "I need your help."
Really?
And I go, okay.
That's odd, but okay. Yeah.
Because most people, I actually walk into the crowd and they yell "parasite." I'm not kidding. Like
That's
they go,
hilarious.
"Parasite! Don't talk to
that's
this man!
funny.
Don't talk to this man!"
That's funny. And again, on a side note, the idea of speaking to someone being a concern, that I find just so interesting on any side. I just find the idea that that's the concern is,
They're always like, "You're going to cut it up and I'm not going to look good." And I'm like, look, I host a talk radio show.
Yeah.
Where you can literally call in and broadcast yourself across the entire city of Denver.
4 hours. You listen to the stupid stuff that I say sometimes. I mean, come on. Yeah,
I mean,
don't be afraid.
You know, you have a platform to share your entire perspective on this radio show. So a person comes up to me and says, "I need your help." I go, "Okay, what?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "I haven't seen my friend in 15, 16 days.
Oh, wow.
And the person's name is Jax.
Yeah.
And they've gone missing. They're a trans person. They've gone missing.
Oh, wow.
And I need help raising awareness."
Wow. And they come to you there. That's,
I'm around other people that have called me a parasite.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't know who I was, whatever. But they were eager, almost urgently trying to get awareness out about their friend. And at that point, all the little battles we have don't matter.
Oh,
right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
You're dealing with a life here.
Yes, exactly. Now, regardless if you are in favor or not in favor of how this person is representing their gender and presenting themselves in life, their life still matters.
Exactly.
And they're
it's a human
missing.
life, created in the image of God.
Yep, exactly.
There's a sanctity of life there
Yep,
that
there is.
Christians believe in.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, well, and I make funny videos and all that stuff, and those will come. But in this case, I just said, tell me the story.
Yeah.
Tell me about Jax. Let's get information out. What have you heard from law enforcement? Where's the last time you saw Jax? Was Jax in a relationship? What do you know? All that stuff. Because I watch crime dramas too. So you want to explore every avenue you possibly can to figure out, because sometimes it's something you never could have even thought of.
Oh, absolutely. My wife watches a lot of crime dramas as well, and I keep accusing her of doing research. Just saying I'm concerned. If I disappear,
So, a missing person for 15 days, your mind goes to the worst place. And you're like, oh, no.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
So,
16, that's a long time.
If there's a possibility to save this person, let's explore. So, anyways, I posted it online. We're up to near 20,000 views on this. Honest conversation. No more political BS.
Yeah.
No more debates. Anything like that. An honest friend, desperately looking for every avenue to raise awareness about a missing person that they care about. We're at 22,000 views. It's online. Retweet it. Jax Grattan is the missing person. It is a trans person.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Nope.
If you're missing. But Jax Grattan is the name, and whatever can be done using our platforms to help find this person should be done.
Oh, that is wonderful. Look, tons and tons and tons of respect for you. Great respect for that individual that came up and
Tink
just
was
said,
her name,
"Let's
by the
talk
way.
to you."
I was
Oh,
like
wow.
Tinkerbell? She goes, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's very sweet.
That is fantastic, and for her to talk to you about it. But again, this in some ways underlines what we're doing on the show, that Jeff and I have these disagreements, especially in the trans community, but it is intellectual. And it exists in that mental area. It's not necessarily deep
born
inside
out of hatred or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And so we can disagree, but we can still agree that Jax's life matters. We can disagree with the choices, but their life matters, and we need to find them. We need to make sure that they are safe. And this transcends the disagreement over transgender rights and what bathroom Jax is going to get to choose to use. That doesn't matter at the core here. And that's kind of the core of what this show's about, that we will debate all those issues, but at the center of it, we are still all humans, and we're still in this condition. We still have this experience, and we're all going to do what we can to save each other. That's it.
And
all it
Bill,
is.
you're exactly right. And my followers on X are of a certain kind.
Yeah, not my fans.
They're like 90. When I put up a poll, should we cut off federal funding to the city of Denver for being a sanctuary city? It's like 99.9% absolutely yes. Anyways, posted that yesterday. The comments are incredible.
Oh, that's amazing.
I meme, therefore I am, which has 750,000 followers. I'm happy to help. They retweeted it.
Wow.
Thank
That's
you.
incredible.
Jax is a hairstylist friend of mine. Their community is very worried. Thank you for spreading awareness. This is what separates, this brings us together. Good message. All lives matter. Praying for Jax. 16 days is too long. Super concerning. What can we do? How sad. Prayers for Jax. Praying for Jax.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All that stuff.
That's fantastic.
So good job.
And good job for you, too, because I can see other individuals in the media being presented with this possibility in this interview and going, I'm not going to help you because I don't agree with what this person is doing, because I don't support their choices, and I'm not going to do this or this or this, that no, I'm not going to offer you that help. I can see other people in other media spheres doing that, but that's not you. That's not my friend here on the air. And that's important for everybody else that sometimes says, Jeff is being so mean, to understand where his heart is. This is how good of a person he is. And this is why I'm proud to turn on this microphone with him each and every day.
Thank you, brother. That's very kind of you. All right, we've got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's a special edition because it's Friday. Yes. You choose the News Loser Edition.
Yes, it's time for all the losers. Those stories that were not deemed worthy of our attention earlier this week by Jeff and Blake.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club.
Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, you know how we do this one on Fridays. It is the return of many stories that were ignored by both Jeff and Blake earlier this week on America's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. Here in my hands, I hold those stories. You know how we play this. Dumb headlines that I add to stories I find online so that we can goof off for about 5 or 6 minutes because nobody in charge is paying attention. So, these are the stories that Blake Olson, who joins us from the newsroom, and Jeff Hunt said, no, I don't think those are good enough for this show. Let's see if they change their mind today. Gentlemen, your headlines are as follows. Headline number 1, they're going at it like, well, you know. Headline number 2, just like at the bar. Headline number 3, outsourcing, now illegal. And headline number 4, perfect employee. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Just like at the bar.
Yeah, just like at the bar. Now, the science hippies, you know, the people that wear the slab coats, have discovered that maybe bonobo chimpanzees behave a hell of a lot like we do when we're out at the bar. Scientists have long wondered why bonobos generally live in a female-dominated society, since the males are overwhelmingly physically bigger and stronger. It's because girl power. The girls team up and form groups, and that's how they hang on to their dominant place inside the society. That anytime a single male gets out of line, you know, coming over, hitting on your girl over at the bar,
yep,
all of her girlfriends step up behind and go, no, you a loser. Go back there to your own gin and tonic. Yeah, so that's basically it. And they say that they even find out that female bonobos that don't even know each other will back their girl up if they feel the male is being too aggressive or encroaching on territory. They don't have to be family members or even acquaintances, but they always got their girls back. I think that's interesting. Just like at the bar. Yeah. We've all seen that where the guy steps up there and is like, hi, how you doing? And then all of a sudden, like, the other girls flutter in like a flock of birds and are like, no, you're not good enough. No, step away. You think you're going to date her with those shoes? What the hell are you thinking? Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that stuff. We've all been on the end of that. Alrighty. Blake Olson, sir, your choice. They're going at it like, well, you know, outsourcing now illegal or perfect employee?
Perfect employee.
Yes, perfect employee. An Australian radio station is facing some backlash because of one of their new midday hosts. Workdays with Thigh was presented for 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and became a somewhat popular broadcast inside of Sydney until it was revealed that Thigh doesn't exist. The company had created an AI jock. And a local reporter started wondering why they didn't have any background information on this brand new amazing DJ, and then started to notice that some of the descriptions, some of the words sounded exactly the same. When they would use certain phrases, there's no emotion in them because there's no variation in the delivery. They always say other words the same way every time. That's why. So now the station is facing some backlash. Alrighty. Jeff, final choice. Going at it like, well, you know, or outsourcing illegal?
Outsourcing.
Outsourcing now illegal. A 40-year-old Maryland man facing decades in prison because he decided to outsource his job. He works in a nail salon, but he had 13 different IT jobs. Some of them required clearance, and he got the workers, North Korea and China.
Of course.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of You Choose the News.
All right, we got Danielle Jurinsky coming up. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. I also want to welcome all the new NPR listeners that are coming over here as their federal funding got cut. Thank God it finally happened. You can pay for it yourself if you want it. But welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. Coming up here in a few minutes, Danielle Jurinsky is going to join us. Aurora City Councilwoman. Nearly 1,000 vehicles have been seized in Aurora through its three-strike policy since this new law has begun. Aurora Police Department statistics show 920 vehicles have been impounded under the city's new three-strike seizure law. This was all about those cars that drive around without license plates or crazy outdated registrations. And if the driver lacks a license, insurance, and registration, well, then those cars are seized and can actually be sold off. The new law went into effect this year, and again, about 1,000 cars have been picked up since then. So we'll be talking about with Danielle Jurinsky about how they're turning things around in Aurora. By the way, Bill, I walked around 16th Street Mall yesterday, too.
Did you?
Took some time, walked down there. Still lots of construction.
Yeah.
There's no way that thing's going to be done in 3 months. No way.
No way.
There's massive holes in the ground still. And I went in and spoke with a shop owner, like one of the last shops left there.
Yeah,
and fascinating story. He didn't want to be on camera, and I understand.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's been there 40 years. He was there when they originally built it.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible.
And now he's one of the last building shops still down there.
Yeah.
He's an immigrant from one of the Asian countries.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah.
And basically the word he kept using was survival.
Oh, wow.
We've just been trying to survive.
Jeez.
I'm just thinking, can I get through a few more months? Will they finally open this place back up?
Yeah, so I can have,
It's just heartbreaking.
Oh, that's awful.
But this guy's been there for 40 years, and he takes it month by month at this point.
Oh.
Just trying to survive 16th Street.
That's got to be
And
hard.
the construction was still all there. It's terrible.
Wow.
Terrible. They've got a lot of
awful.
work to do down there. So,
that's awful.
But in Aurora, Danielle Jurinsky, she's cleaning it up, getting it done there. So we'll be talking to her in a second. But now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 40 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 64 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, this one breaking, Bloomberg. China quietly exempts about a quarter of U.S. imports from tariffs. So something may be working. And then Scott Jennings posts on X that something big is coming. And he has a photo with himself with President Trump, and they're holding up a photo that is blurred. We'll see what that's all about.
What, did you hear the rumor?
I did not hear the rumor. What is the rumor?
He's running for Senate.
Oh, okay, so that's the Senate in Georgia or?
Tennessee, I think. I think it's to take over Mitch McConnell's seat.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, at least that was the
rumor.
Yeah, Scott Jennings may be running for U.S. Senate.
Love it. He's done
exciting.
such a great job destroying the left every night on CNN. He deserves a shot at that, no doubt.
Great. Does this mean soon we're going to have Representative Rachel Maddow?
Let's hope not.
Just saying. Just be careful what we wish for.
Well, I mean, it is so far. The bar is so low right now already.
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking actually that, maybe if it continues to lower here in a few years, I'm just going to run one of my snakes as a, as a candidate.
They would actually do better.
Oh, I'm certain. Because
on
it's
that
like,
point,
it's like, look, it is a snake. You
Yes,
know what you're getting.
what would be the difference between that and a ball?
No
we're
false
not
advertising
hiding
here.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
So down for 1312, the trans bill that was down at the state capitol, there's a bunch of pastors who went down and testified. Yeah. And pastors don't do this on a normal basis. And so they were text messaging me back just being like, I had no idea. I had no idea how dumb, how demonic some of these lawmakers are. And just, I mean, it is so broken. And you have to experience it where you're like, my God, I would take any random person off the street and they would do a better job than the person that we have down there.
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
That's one of the reasons that I've always been against the idea of some sort of a test in order for you to exercise your right to vote, because I think that if we're going to do that, there has to be a test for the candidate first. That's my argument. That if you want to have a test for voting, test for the candidate. Now, we've got a great candidate come up here, Danielle Jurinsky. But my thought is that what you need to do is whatever office you're going to run for, and we can put together a test, and you've got 3 shots at it. And so you can take the test 3 times, but you have to release one of the results before you can run for office, and it is unadulterated. Yeah, you do not get to redact anything else, and it has to include at least 3 essay questions. Has to.
I love it.
We can decide what we want to ask them. Don't care. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
The problem is AI would answer it for him.
Yes, that is true.
No, that's why we make him do it in handwriting. Make sure. Then we can judge penmanship
I like
too.
that in cursive.
Yeah. Oh yes, has to be in cursive. Oh,
have to be in cursive.
That. Yes.
Man, we've got something going.
We
here.
do. See, this is why people listen.
You would get some
problems.
submissions with crayon.
But if it's in cursive,
if you can't write a Z in cursive, no way.
Yeah, me good.
Yeah.
Law person.
Did you tell those pastors welcome to hell when they talked about
No. And like I'm like, when God judges this town, this state, like it's justified. It's absolutely justified, because you will listen to people talk about, how great abortion is. God created abortion and how wonderful it is to kill kids. I mean, you get some of the just most, and then, we need to take kids away from their parents because we know better what to do with regards to all the LGBTQ stuff than the parents do. And we are better. And Faith Winter's drunk down. And I mean, she had her alcohol problems. So, I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Here's some good news. The April jobs report is out, and it's better than most analysts were expecting. The Labor Department says 177,000 new jobs were added last month. Ross Kaminsky, fellow from the Common Sense Institute, received the outstanding pro wrestling intro from Billy because, he also has his show at 850, The King of Agriculture. So competitors collide, but not really. He joined the show last hour and says we are learning a couple of things from a recent report on TABOR.
One is how much we're losing by the legislative assault on TABOR. The other is how much we're gaining by having TABOR in place and how much we have to lose if they're able to get rid of it. And I'm sure you've talked with your listeners in the recent past about the lawsuit where they're trying to eliminate key parts of it. But what the researchers at Common Sense Institute have found is that the fact that the state has to return excessive taxation to the taxpayers of Colorado accounts for about 16,000 private sector jobs a year being in existence, with that money staying in the private sector.
And he says nearly $3 billion a year in GDP and nearly $10 billion a year in personal income because, once again, it's in the private sector and not in the government hands. Great to have Ross in the ring with Jeff and Billy. And I wanted to record on the intro that Billy gave, but I had to run out for a quick second. I didn't get it, doggone it. But it was a great intro from Billy on that one. Last night on Fox News, Elon with Jesse Waters and the big reveal. Where's the guy with the big ones?
Who's big balls?
It's big. That should be obvious.
Why do they call you big balls?
I just said it as my LinkedIn username.
Okay.
Well, people on LinkedIn take themselves like super seriously, and they're pretty adverse to risk. And I was like, well, I want to be neither of those things. So I said it, and honestly, I didn't even think anyone would notice.
Yeah. So what do you
LinkedIn
do?
is so cringe.
What does Big Balls do?
Right now, I'm working on some payment computer stuff. So one of our initiatives is to root out fraud and waste.
Some great young people out there. Love it. DJT at the University of Alabama graduation last night.
As you graduate, it's natural to reflect on 4 years of happy memories, and you've really had happy memories here. You've done a lot of winning. Winning is a good thing to do. But today I'm also asking you to look forward to really something very, very bright and more promising. And it's going to be an even more promising tomorrow, I promise you that. You're the first graduating class of the golden age of America. We're in the golden age. You watch. It's the golden age.
That's awesome, man. Body cam footage from the night Kilmar Garcia was pulled over after he was trafficking. Officers had to let him go because of Biden's FBI. Well, they ordered it. Whole lot of seats in that van.
It's good. How many rows have you got in here? 4? 4 seats? 4 rows of seats?
Yeah, it's three seats. Yeah, with him. Yeah.
Did y'all put an extra one in? Huh? Did y'all put another one in?
No.
Did it come like this?
We use the truck.
I've never seen one with that many seats in it.
What you say? He's my boss.
I said I've never seen one with that many seats.
Oh,
in
really?
It. Yeah.
Oh man, God bless the
That
patrolman.
is the. I haven't had a chance to watch that. That's the
Yes.
body camera from Garcia, the guy that's in the El Salvadorian prison that they're all freaking out about. So I asked the protesters, mostly white liberal women, yesterday about this, and I would say, his spouse had filed reports against him about abuse, spousal abuse, stuff like that. I mean, are you really out here protesting for that guy to come back?
Right.
And just, I don't know what you're talking about.
Incredible.
What are you talking about? They have no idea. They think this guy is some saint that got shipped out of El Salvador or down to El Salvador, and he's not. And it's just more and more footage coming out about him trafficking, the spousal abuse reports, the tattoos on his knuckles.
And I'll tell you, it's chilling when you see that affidavit, the photo of it, where the ex-husband of his wife says that he fears for his children and their lives because she is dating a gang member. When you read that in his handwriting, it's chilling. So they need to see stuff like that, but they don't see it. You're exactly right.
And then I go, okay, well, if we brought the guy back and then we deported him, would you be okay? Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, he has an active deportation order. Like he's like a judge looked at him and said, this guy needs to go. So it's just pure political nonsense at this point.
It is garbage. Avalanche facing elimination last night.
McKinnon's pulling wide on the booster with a centering pass, redirect by Lekanen. The downstairs, and the Avalanche are back on top.
Crazy game last night. I know Kelly Michaels is fired up. Avs beat the Stars 7-4. Heads back to Dallas tomorrow at 7. And the Nuggets tried to finish off the Clippers.
Jokic passes up a 3, drives on Zubats and misses. And Leonard comes out of the pack. Zubac stands tall defensively.
And Brian, from the start of game 1, this looked like the series was going 7, and now it is.
Yes, sir. 111-105 Clippers. Game 7 in Lodo tomorrow night. 37 in Louisville, 39 in Parker, 40 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
That's why I was asking if you put an extra one in.
No, it's the same. Like this.
Okay.
Lot of rows in that van. Lot of rows, extra rows. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a cloudy, cool start to your day here in Denver with areas of morning light rain showers. Then there will be a couple of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, highs 50s and lows 60s. Showers ending tonight, lows near 40 degrees. Sunny, nice day Friday, 60s, near 40 Friday night, warming to the 70s and sunny Saturday. 70s and sunny Sunday, but Sunday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms likely. Showers and thunderstorms likely Monday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, you've seen those cars out there without the license plates, with the extremely expired registration. You know, folks are driving without licenses. They're not insured. They haven't registered the car. For years, it felt like nobody was doing anything about it. The city of Aurora not putting up with it anymore. And if you have those 3 strikes, well, your car is going to be impounded.
Yeah, we talked earlier. I found a car that had a temporary tag from 2022. 2022. That is not a mistake.
It's back when Joe Biden was still somewhat coherent.
Like, this is ridiculous. And obviously the driver knew exactly what he was doing because he was driving the car as if he stole it. I mean, it was like, I need to spend as little time as possible on the roads. He was navigating as if he was playing Mario Kart. It was ridiculous.
So stepping in to address this, and with the 3-strike law, have nearly seized nearly 1,000 vehicles. Danielle Jurinsky, City Councilwoman for Aurora, joins us. Danielle, thanks for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
So it seems like this law is having an impact.
It's having a huge impact. I think to date we're somewhere right around 1,000 impounded vehicles. And what I tell people is it's all 3 strikes to have the vehicle impounded. But if it's just 1 or 2, they still will be ticketed and face arrest.
That's Danielle Jurinsky. Now, the 3 aspects that they have to violate are the car has to have an expired or no registration, no insurance, and no license. Let's go back to why you guys felt the need to enforce this more stringently than maybe other cities do. Let's talk about maybe the problems you were facing prior to this law.
Sure. I mean, just like all over the state, right, we're seeing an influx of expired registration, and it's just unacceptable. And it just seems like people don't care. There's no incentive. There's nothing forcing them or pushing them to want to renew their registration. So we feel like if we take their car, that'll be a pretty good reason for them to want to go get their registration updated.
I think so. So what's the response been from your constituents?
Oh, they're excited. I mean, they're just excited to see a council working for them, listening to their concerns and responding. And no matter what it is, the retail theft, the auto theft, the vehicle registrations, the homeless, the illegals, it doesn't matter what it is. They're being heard, and we are responding with action. So I think they are very, very excited.
That's Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman, making crime illegal again in the city of Aurora.
That's
with
weird.
this 3-strike law. That's right.
Don't tell Mayor Johnston in Denver. Go,
right,
you can do that?
right.
Yeah.
Now, City Councilwoman, what do you do with the cars once they've been impounded?
Well, they go to the lot. And, it's up to them to come get their vehicles or not get their vehicles. If they don't get their vehicles, then, they'll go to auction.
Now, progressives will say this is only going to harm the poor. If someone's rich, of course they're going to get registration and insurance, all that. And it seems like you might be just targeting low-income residents of Aurora that might have problems with this. What's your response to that critique?
Well, my response to that is that you're saying that all poor people break the law, and that's not true. There's plenty of people who are low income who manage to have a driver's license, who manage to have insurance, and who manage to register their vehicles. And that's tough for them. That alone is tough for them. So I would say that's not a fair statement to say that all poor people can't follow laws. And if anything, the ones who are not following these laws are making it even tougher for the other folks who are already just kind of getting by to barely pay their registration, barely pay their insurance, because it's because of these people with no license, no registration, and no insurance that the rest of us are paying more.
Yeah, this is Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman, joining Jeff and Bill Live. We were talking about the fact that Aurora has impounded nearly 1,000 vehicles. A brand new program, 3 strikes law. It means you got no license, Your car's not registered, you got no insurance, you got no car. And so all those cars that you've seen driving around on the streets of Aurora that had those expired temporary tags, even driving with no license, that's who they're going after. And Jeff and I think this is a wonderful program because it's one of those pain points that you have as an average driver. Nobody is excited to pay their registration fee every year. Nobody's excited to make sure that they pay their car insurance. And when you're sitting there in traffic and you notice that someone else doesn't have their car registered on time, it makes you feel like the rules don't matter. And so this really is something that shows that Danielle and the other people involved in the Aurora City Council are fighting to make sure that, yes, everybody follows the same rules. And I like what you said, Danielle, about the idea that assuming that poor people can't pay this, because you could make the same argument with rich people. We don't necessarily see their cars as much in certain areas, but they have the financial means to just pay the fine. They could easily pay the registration fee, but they also have the financial means to say if they didn't register their car for 3 or 4 years, they can write that check. So I disagree with the argument on its face that this just attacks poor people. Now, what I want to ask you is, as we go forward, do we think that there's going to be a change in car registrations here in Aurora? I don't know if you have numbers in front of you, but have you seen any bump, or is there any sort of an increase that all of a sudden we are seeing more cars being registered in Aurora? And I'm kind of focusing on the idea of those expired cars, the cars that have not had a registration. Maybe they had a temporary tag that expired 2 or 3 months ago, and all of a sudden the people are noticing other people are losing their cars, and maybe now they're starting to follow the rules. Because I'm certain there are some people out there that think, well, I would much rather go get the new game or get to the new PlayStation rather than pay the $1,000 to register my car. Have there been any numbers to look at increase in car registrations?
So this is fairly new. I don't think that we have the data on that. What we have right now is how many cars have been impounded, and that's what Fox 31 reported on a few days ago, upwards of 1,000 vehicles so far that we have taken off the road. Here's what I would say. I don't know if more vehicles are being registered, but you are seeing less vehicles on the road with expired registration because we're taking them. And so hopefully doing it one time sends the message, and these people, when they do go get their vehicles, should they go get their vehicles, they're certainly going to get license, registration, and insurance. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to face the same fate over and over because we're going to continue to take the vehicles.
That's Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman. Any sense on whether or not these vehicles belong to illegal immigrants? Have you heard any stats on that?
I mean, that would be my speculation, Jeff. That would be a lot of my speculation. So I also don't have that data at this time. To me, to not have a driver's license, insurance, or registration, I think it screams folks that are here from other countries that are not supposed to be here. But then again, they were getting driver's license to illegals. So I don't know why they wouldn't even have driver's license. So really, time will tell when the data comes out.
That's Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman. We are talking about the 3 strikes law that is a program that is happening in Aurora. Basically, no license, no registration, no insurance, no car. They take your car. Now, Michael just called in as he's listening to the Jeff and Bill program. He is in Denver. Michael, you're in traffic and something unusual right in front of you. Talk to us about what's going on in traffic.
Well, I listen to your guys' show. And I'm sitting in traffic. I'm on Spear, going to work, and sitting in front of me is a vehicle, like a Hyundai brown sedan, nice vehicle, and it's got plates from August of 24. So,
geez, great.
And I literally, my wife thinks it's a weird hobby. I take pictures of every time I see that. So I've probably got 40, 50 pictures. I just shake my head when I go to work.
Dude, Michael, that's amazing. And I bet you see him all the
so
time.
I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Oh, Michael, thank you so much for the phone call. And Michael, I love the fact that you said that you keep them. I have that same thing in my phone. When I see the cars, the expired license plates, I'm yanking out my phone, I'm taking it. Yes, I'm doing it, Michael. You and I are like simpatico. Thank you so much for the phone call. I appreciate that. That was good. I wanted to bring Michael on because as we're talking with Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman, there's Michael. Listen to the Jeff and Bill show in traffic in Denver. Yep. And he's sitting there behind a car with expired license plates. Now, if that car goes into Aurora, that person might lose their car.
I want to ask Danielle Jurinsky about this. You are running Aurora differently than Mike Johnston's running Denver. Are you seeing changes in Aurora and the differences you all are making there?
Absolutely, and I feel confident about the changes that we're making. And I tell everybody that this is going to end up being the tale of two cities between Denver and Aurora on every issue, on any issue. So, you know, it's going to be the tale of two cities, and it's unfortunate because in Denver they're not even pulling people over for minor traffic infringements anymore.
It's heartbreaking. I was down on 16th Street Mall yesterday, and it was it's a ghost town in part because of all the crime that's taking place there. Danielle Jurinsky. Now, Danielle, you're running again for re-election. Your website, DanielleForAurora.com, DanielleForAurora.com. Challengers are now starting to jump in. This is going to be a competitive race. Kind of game it out for us. What is this campaign going to look like? Why should people re-elect you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people should reelect me because I have been responding to their concerns, to their asks. I respond to emails. I show up to their town halls. I show up to their neighborhood meetings. I am one of the most active elected officials you may ever meet. I'm born and raised in Aurora. It's my hometown. It's a town I'm willing to fight for. I've proven that time and time again. And quite frankly, we want to keep Aurora. We don't want to go back. I don't think anybody in Aurora wants to go back to seeing homeless on every single street corner, to seeing expired license plates, to being first in the nation for stolen vehicles. I think that in my first 4 years, I've worked very hard. I've worked for the people tirelessly and selflessly, and I deserve to be reelected. And the Democrat machine is certainly coming for me, so it will be quite the race.
Danielle Jurinsky, she's about to catch a flight here, so you can see it in the background. So we'll wrap up. I know I've got just a few more quick questions. One question from a constituent wondering, are you guys running out of tow space at all in light of all the cars that you've impounded?
Not at all.
I love it. She's like, we'll just keep it. Yeah, if you dare us, we'll tow your car. We got plenty of space.
That's right.
And then finally, Danielle Jurinsky, when you ran and announced your re-election campaign, I was there. You were wearing a shirt that's now gone pretty viral that says "Straight Out of Aurora." If people wanted to buy one of those shirts, where could they get it?
Well, they'll have to email me directly because that was just for the month of April. So they'll have to go to DanielleForAurora.com. They will have to make a $30 donation for the shirt and then just shoot me an email with the size of the shirt that they want.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Straight out of Aurora, Danielle Jurinsky. Man, she's doing a great job. And this is one of those few moments where both of us, Billy and I, agree.
Yes.
Danielle Jurinsky is doing a fantastic job for Aurora.
I was telling someone on the text messages, Danielle, that you're a great example of what our founding fathers were envisioning when they looked at politicians as far as the type of person they wanted to lead our state and our country. And we appreciate you joining us, appreciate your time, and appreciate the fight that you are giving for all the residents in Aurora. We appreciate you standing up for all of us. Thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Hey, have a safe flight.
Jurinsky, you can go to her website, DanielleForAurora.com, DanielleForAurora.com.
Yeah.
Look, speaking of crime, you got to have a great alarm detection system in Colorado. It just is, especially if you don't have somebody like Danielle Jurinsky looking out for you and you're in Denver or part of these other parts of the state where the elected officials care more about criminals than business owners, residents. You know who I'm talking about. You need a good alarm detection system. And reliability, it's not optional. When business security is on the line, it's absolutely essential. Businesses, schools, and businesses small and large all trust alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could be saving if you just had one source for all your cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems. ADS, Alarm Detection Systems, offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service upon request because downtime isn't an option, dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working directly for you. Choosing ADS means your businesses stay protected and will be ready to be open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. They're trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools. Their security experts will review your system for free. Here's all you got to do. Go to adsalarm.com. Schedule your appointment there today. adsalarm.com, Alarm Detection Systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses, adsalarm.com. Bill, in the 8 o'clock hour, speaking of awesome security.
Yes.
All right, Michelle Chandler's going to join us.
Ooh, yeah.
So Michelle Chandler is the mom who was at Neiman Marcus, and some dude was sticking a camera under her door.
Yeah, it's
to film her?
basically, it's upskirting is the thing. And you get this, oddly enough, it's really big in Japan. It's really weird. And so what it is it's dudes that go around and try to film as women are either changing or in the bathroom or even just wandering around and they've got skirts or something on and they're trying to see stuff they shouldn't. They're trying to see the naughty bits. And so she's in the changing room and dude puts a camera phone underneath the partition and tries to get some shots. And she's having none of that.
None of it. I think she was there with her daughter, too, and opens the door, grabs the guy, puts him in a headlock, and sits there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
She opens up a can of whoop-ass.
Waiting for the cops to get there with this. Then this guy is exactly what you would think he'd look like. He's stringy, like weak-sauced little beta male dude.
My favorite is the idea that he's one, and this is the thing that I think is funny, is he's one of those guys that wears the basketball shorts and then pulls his pants down to below where his testicles would be. And you're just like, what that about? I just don't. Yeah, but again, he's one of those
no
dudes.
Dad that was like, pull up your pants.
Yeah, exactly.
So Michelle Chandler's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour, and she's going to give us an update on this case. It is fascinating. You're not going to want to miss that. So we got a whole lot coming. But doing the read about alarm detection systems, it's like having your own Michelle Chandler.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah. And reach out to Alarm Detection Systems because they are like a one-stop shop. They're going to make sure that everything, especially your business, is buttoned up. And it's going to be important because you've seen those reports. There is a liquor store in the neighborhood where I live that had to either do some tremendous increase in security or they were going to have to close because people kept driving cars through the front doors. And then they would take some of the expensive liquor, but they were going after the ATM machine. They now have had to increase their security, and they've had to make some other changes to the entryway of that business because of the crime. And I'm of the opinion that if they had had alarm detection systems, that many of these people making these break-ins wouldn't have gotten away with it. It would have been something different for them. So again, you want to make sure that everything in that business you have is there the next morning when you open up those doors. Alarm detection systems.
That's exactly right.
Ones.
Oh, we got Kory Nelson up.
Yeah, he's coming up.
Awesome.
He worked with the impound lots in Denver, and we'll talk about some of the rules, what went on, and some of the policies, procedures, and give us some insight on what's going to happen to those cars that got 3 strikes in Aurora.
Oh, I love it. We got the best listeners. All right, you're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Kory Nelson next.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Nearly 1,000 vehicles seized in Aurora through a 3-strike policy. This began since the new law kicked off this year. Fox 31 reporting. We just wrapped up a conversation with Danielle Jurinsky, and we've got some great callers. Kory Nelson, or listeners. Kory's calling in, giving us some insight because I guess he ran the impound program.
Well,
for
let's let him explain it. Kory Nelson, welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know what, Jeff, what I actually did, I was a legal advisor to the Denver Sheriff's Vehicle Impound Facility, so I was their attorney for many years. Wow. The program I ran is what we call the Civil Public Nuisance Abatement Program, where Denver would impound vehicles involved in criminal activity, such as street racing, police chases, including people driving the vehicle who are habitual traffic offenders, which is a special category. Like, imagine folks who have 2 or 3 DUIs, for example, and continue to drive despite that. So I would literally handle civil filings in Denver County Court seeking court orders to continue the impound of those vehicles to incapacitate their use as a criminal tool to facilitate those crimes. So that's what I did. But the insight I wanted to provide is this. I'm sure you're familiar that under state law and local law, anytime somebody gets their vehicle impounded, the impound facility has to send legal notification to the titled owners of the vehicle. Okay, hey, we got your vehicle here, right? That seems obviously common sense. But what most people don't realize is that a significant portion of those vehicles, I believe, on the road with expired plates are not owned, are not titled in the name of the person driving it. We see a lot of cases where people buy vehicles in private transactions and not through a licensed dealer, and they just never go into DMV to retitle the vehicle in the first place. They never get titled, therefore they don't get registration, and most likely they don't have insurance. Why? Well, you can imagine a lot of reasons why. Number one, of course, the cost, to get insurance, to pay the registration, etc. Also, there may be a problem with the title. They may get a bad title from the seller. Also, the person may be an habitual traffic offender and can't get a driver's license. They may be, unlawfully present in the state and have concerns about walking into the government office, etc. So I'm finding a lot of cases, at least the cases I dealt with. I retired in January, but a lot of cases I dealt with, the vehicle impound, I say about a third of the vehicles that we would impound in circumstances were not owned by, not titled in the name of the person who was driving the vehicle. One last note. It's very important all your listeners understand that as soon as you sell your vehicle, immediately, now okay, you trade it into a dealer, sell it to a dealer, sell it to your cousin, your next door neighbor, you need to go online to the DMV website and fill out a form called a release of liability form. Again, a release of liability form. As soon as you file that puts the date and time stamp of the title, notifying everybody you no longer own the vehicle and your liability for what happens with that vehicle ends. And that tells anybody who pulls the title, you no longer own that vehicle. If you don't do that, one of these vehicles gets impounded or involved in criminal activity, you're going to be notified by law enforcement saying, hey, we'd like to talk to you about this vehicle.
Dude, that's like prime level legal advice right there. I feel like Bill and I should write you a check, Kory.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, I'm happy to know, but that release of liability, I want to give, our Douglas County legislators are responsible for that, because I took that idea to them, and they ran it to the state legislature with Senate Bill 1873, I believe. So we had some great legislators who listened and provide that relief to people. So again, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, you don't believe how many people have had this happen. They sell a vehicle in a private transaction, and something happens to it, and all of a sudden they think they're in trouble and they can eat some liability. Yeah, they can be exposed to liability, but if you file that release of liability form, which you can do online, immediately, I filled one out at the dealership. I was trading a vehicle in. You can do it online, easy peasy, takes a few seconds. You end your liability, and you won't receive all these notices. Hey, we got this vehicle, or actually be sued, because I would actually name people in these civil actions that we found out later no longer own the vehicle, but they didn't file a release of liability form.
That voice you're hearing is Kory Nelson, a now retired attorney that used to work for the city of Denver. Kory, I want to ask you about this 3 strikes law that Aurora has that's resulted in the impoundment of nearly 1,000 vehicles. The 3 strikes being if you lack a license, you lack insurance, and you never registered the car, then the car's going to be impounded They've seen nearly 1,000 of these cars impounded as a result of it. A lot of them, from Danielle's perspective, she doesn't have the numbers, but going probably illegal immigrants as well. If somebody is breaking all three of those, license, insurance, registration, do you think it's right for those cars to be impounded? Is it going to make a difference with regards to crime in the community, from your perspective?
Sure, because we find these vehicles, drug dealers no longer buy Cadillacs and have them, pimped out anymore, right? They're not using their own vehicle because then the DAs could go through what's called forfeiture if it's actually being used in the drug deal. So they don't use their own vehicles; they'll use somebody else's, or buy a vehicle and never register it in their name. So we see a lot of criminal activity being using vehicles that aren't registered, aren't titled, aren't, no insurance, et cetera. So we see that an awful lot. Also recognize that if one of these vehicles gets involved in a major, collision, right, there's no liability insurance. Those victims out there have no recourse but to go against their own insurance company, which usually have limitations on it. So they do present, I guess, a danger, in my opinion, to the public for safety purposes on the road. So I applaud Aurora. I think that's a great idea. I did see, for example, it was a week or so, they had a big street racing incident up on Peoria where people were taking control of the intersection and doing burnouts, et cetera. That's the sort of stuff that I would deal with on a regular basis, and I hope they strengthen up their programs for that as well.
Kory, hey, man, really appreciate you listening, calling in, and giving our listeners some awesome legal advice. I know that's not technically legal advice. Attorneys get weird about that. But no, I appreciate you taking time.
Kory is no longer a city attorney, but he plays one on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Kory, you're awesome, brother. Thank you for the time this morning.
Have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
Speaking of great attorneys out there, if you're hurt in an injury case, maybe one of those unlicensed, unregistered folks out there, well, then your first call should be to Dan Kaplis with Dan Kaplis Law.
Maybe one of those unlicensed, unregistered, uninsured cars has hit you. Maybe it has T-boned you or someone in your family, or there's some sort of a hit and run involved. You guys are dealing with that type of an injury, that type of a case. There's only one guy you got to call. That's Dan Kaplis, the only one.
Listen to this record. He's believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. He's about getting justice for you. That's why he accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis, so he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So here's the phone number you need. 303-770-5551. If you got to call Dan Kaplis, here it is, 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Nearly 1,000 vehicles have been seized in Aurora through its 3-strike policy that began this year. If you don't have a driver's license, if you don't have insurance, if you don't have registration, get out of here. Plus, those cars that are impounded can be auctioned off, with, I imagine, some of the money going to the city. A little revenue option.
That would be interesting. I'm always a little fascinated by estate sales and that idea of auto auctions because you can find some incredible deals at both places. And depending on, again, what your needs are, if you need something that is a, get around town that isn't necessarily falling apart, but you don't have to put too much money in, you might be able to find something as far as a decent deal at some of those auto auctions. And who knows, there could be some real gems that people just didn't think they needed to, or didn't, they figured, the city's never going to catch me. I don't have to register this car. So you have no idea. There could be something really good. So you might get some really good deals. So maybe pay attention to those. That could be fun.
It's funny how things have changed. My pops used to talk about how back in the 50s and 60s, he had a buddy that would just drive a clunker. And then when it broke down, he just left it.
Oh, yeah. There's one of the best cars my dad had, and it was fantastic, was a gift from an older friend who had passed away. It was an old Bug. And it was lime green, and it had seen its better days. But to just jump in it and to drive to the grocery store and come home, or just to run little errands, it was the best around-town commuter car in the world until it caught on fire. That's a whole other story. Yes, in the middle of traffic, on fire. But that's for another day.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I know. That's it. It was awful that we lost that car, but it was great. And again,
were you in it when it caught on fire?
No. It caught on fire when my aunt was driving it. My aunt has a unique relationship with automobiles. While they understand there is a relationship between the two of them, they do not get along. Neither person nor the automobile likes each other. And so bad things happen. I love her to death, but bad things happen. Yes.
Well, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with Michelle Chandler. She was the mom that had to grab this guy that was a Peeping Tom in the Nordstroms, I think it was, and was filming her and her daughter and put him in a headlock for 20 minutes. Police got there. She's going to update us on this case because it's getting close to sentencing time. But this is a mom you don't want to mess with, and she's going to talk about the safety of women in these protected spaces. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Ran into her down at the state capitol, Michelle Chandler. This is the mom that caught the dude peeping with the camera at Nordstrom Rack in Lakewood and kicked the door open, grabbed the dude, put him in a headlock, 20 minutes waiting for police to get there. The case now going to sentencing. She has more insight on what was found on this guy's phone. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. She was down there fighting for 1312 because she believes, rightfully so, that women's spaces like locker rooms and bathrooms need to be protected better, and opening it up to a man dressed as a woman, those types of things, is going to create problems, and we're already facing problems. So got to step up the security. Michelle's going to be talking about that, but now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 44 and sunny in Denver. Expecting a high of 64 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
The jobs report for April hitting the wires. Non-farm payrolls, a greater 177,000. We're expecting, as Joe pointed out, 133,000. 177,000 would be the second best of the year outside of what's in the rearview mirror.
Great news, CNBC. The April jobs report better than most analysts were expecting. Aurora's superstar city council member Danielle Jurinsky on the show last hour discussing Aurora's three-strike law, cracking down on the lack of auto registration, insurance, and all that, license on the streets. It's going well so far. Billy saw Hoopty rolling around with stickers from 2022. I see it all the time. Jurinsky says no more.
It's having a huge impact. I think to date we're somewhere right around 1,000 impounded vehicles. And what I tell people is it's all three strikes to have the vehicle impounded. But if it's just one or two, they still will be ticketed and face arrest.
And this is one of those little big things that add up to help fight crime in cities. Denver, not interested. Here's body cam footage from the officer after a gang member, the great Kilmar Garcia, who's in El Salvador right now, was pulled over on this occasion. He was trafficking illegals from the border to Maryland.
You know what you got, right? You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money, is what he's doing. But sometimes they commingle dope. No,
but did you see how squad in the back?
There's 8 people in there.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. They put an extra row of seats in there.
Yeah, so he's getting paid to haul these people, probably to Maryland, I would say.
Fox obtained the video. It's amazing, the body cam video. Biden's FBI ordered the officers to let them go. Let them go do their work to destroy the country. DJT with the Post last hour saying gasoline just broke $1.98 a gallon, lowest in years. Groceries, including eggs, down. Energy down. Mortgage rates down. Employment strong, and much, much more good news as billions of dollars pour in from tariffs. Just like I said, we're going to the transition stage, just getting started, and he closed by saying the Fed should lower its rate. Absolutely. DJT happy this morning. Rapid melts across the western U.S. are causing snowpack to disappear up to 4 weeks early in some areas.
Federal meteorologists are now warning of the potential havoc this could have on the region's water supply. According to an update from the National Integrated Drought Information System, conditions have particularly affected parts of Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, causing some basins to shift from above-average snowpack to snow drought. Washington State and Utah have already declared drought emergencies due to a low snowpack. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And in case you haven't heard this, the former national security advisor responsible for the Signal group chat leak, he's been nominated to be the U.S. ambassador to the UN. President Trump announced the nomination on the same day that Mike Waltz reportedly resigned as security advisor, and the media loves this story. They just love it. Waltz faced scrutiny after he mistakenly added a reporter to a Pentagon group chat. So good for him. Got a new gig, and all is good. Avalanche facing elimination last night.
McKinnon's putting wide on the booster with a centering pass, redirect by Likkinen. It's the downstairs, and the Avalanche go back on top.
McKinnon attacks the net, and eventually the puck all over the place, and the Avs beat the Stars. What a game. 7-4 heads back to Dallas tomorrow at 7. And then the Nuggets tried to finish off the Clippers last night.
Jokic passes up a three, drives on Zubats and misses. And Leonard comes out of the pack. Zubats stands tall defensively.
And Brian, from the start of game one, this looked like a series was going 7, and now it is.
111-105, Clippers win it. What a series. Game 7 at the arena tomorrow night in Lodo. 42 in North Glen, 39 in Castle Rock, 44 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Who's big balls?
It's big.
They found big balls, and they talked to him last night on Fox News Channel, Elon with Jesse Waters. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
It'll be a cloudy, cool start to your day here in Denver with areas of morning light rain showers. Then there will be a couple of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, highs 50s and low 60s. Showers ending tonight, lows near 40 degrees. Sunny, nice day Friday, 60s, near 40 Friday night, warming to the 70s and sunny Saturday. 70s and sunny Sunday, but Sunday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms likely. Showers and thunderstorms likely Monday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to talk to Michelle Chandler here in a second. Look, are you ready to transform your kitchen or bathroom into a stunning masterpiece? Look no further than The Art of Granite, with your premier destination for exquisite granite, marble, and quartz countertops. For over 15 years, Mitch Floria, the owner of The Art of Granite, has been crafting and installing custom countertops, fireplaces, showers, and more. Their team of experts will guide you through the selection process, ensuring you find the perfect stone to match your style and budget. Visit their showroom in Golden or browse their online inventory at theartofgranite.com. Discover the endless possibilities for your home renovation project. You're probably, like many people, you got those golden handcuffs, right? You can't move because you got the great interest rate on your mortgage. Well, renovate your house. And The Art of Granite is the place to go. Listen to this deal we got. Mention KNUS, and you'll get a free bathroom countertop with a new kitchen countertop. Isn't that amazing? Free bathroom countertop with a new kitchen countertop, or choose a free kitchen or bathroom sink with any countertop package. So don't wait. Transform your home into the oasis you deserve. Schedule your free consultation with Mitch today. Go to theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. And again, mention KNUS for those exclusive savings. Transform your kitchen or bathroom dreams into reality with theartofgranite.com. All right, you guys probably remember this story. There was a Peeping Tom sticks his camera underneath the changing room in Nordstrom's in Lakewood. And this mom, Michelle Chandler's her name. By the way, she's athletic. All right, I can understand. I met her the other day. I could definitely get why she could hold a guy for 20 minutes in a headlock. And she's become a voice on protecting these spaces from predators, women's spaces, locker rooms, bathrooms from predators. And was down at the state capitol testifying, got a chance to meet her. and she's got some updates on the case. She joins us now on the Jeff and Bill Show. Michelle, thanks for taking time to join the program.
Yes, good morning.
Hi, Jeff and Bill. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go back and talk about what happened. I think this was now a few months ago, or a year ago almost, right?
Yeah, it was last Mother's Day. It was the day before Mother's Day. And I went into Nordstrom Rack. Just thought I'll pick a little outfit out for me because I was going to spend the day with my kids on Sunday, so it was Saturday. And I was a loyal customer of Nordstrom and Nordstrom Rack. And so I went to the one in Belmar. And, I had my hands full of several outfits. And I went back to the fitting room because I like to go in once and try everything on and get out of there. So I'm familiar with all of their stores because, like I said, that's probably one of my first go-tos when I shop. And this particular store has an open entrance for their fitting rooms. So the men's and women's are located through the same main entrance. For years, women's has been left and men's has been right. And as I went up to the fitting room, the attendant said, both sides are open. Pick any room with an open door. And I just thought, didn't think too much about it, but instinctively I'm like, I'm going left. I've always gone left. And went down to, I had another gal with me, a friend, and I said, go all the way to the end so we can be near that mirror. And so we went to the very end. There was a couple in there at the time, which I don't find unusual. There was a man standing outside his wife or girlfriend's door. And, she opened the door and he's like, yeah, I like that, So I didn't think too much of that because that seems kind of normal. And so we went into the fitting rooms and that couple was gone. So it was just the two of us on that end. And I was trying on clothes. I don't even know how many different outfits I had tried on already. But I suddenly noticed like a distinct smell of like horrible foot odor. And I almost joked with the girl next to me and said, dude, is that your feet? But I thought, what if someone else is in here? I don't want to be rude. So I didn't say anything. And sure enough, as I went to bend down, take off a pair of pants, I saw an iPhone camera lenses pointing right at me. And I saw these large-sized tennis shoes and dirty, smelly socks, and I thought, is this really happening to me?
Yeah, I got to imagine that's got to be a sinking feeling into your gut when you see that. I mean, you're trying to process the fact that somebody's invaded your privacy like that, is trying to capture you and take pictures or videos of you in such a vulnerable spot. And I imagine you get that sinking feeling, but then you decide to do something about it. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so, I was actually pretty calm because I think years ago when this first happened, and I think a transgender person went into Target and was filming people, and that was years ago, I thought, gosh, what would I do if that ever happened to me? And I think this is something that, really women need to, and you teach your kids, everybody should be aware of your surroundings because that's sadly the world that we live in today. And I think, I kind of got that mentality years ago because one of my daughters was in the Theater 9 shooting with James Holmes. And after that happened, it just kind of raised our awareness like, okay, we talked about gun safety. We talked about concealed carry. And that mentality just, it was like, okay, be aware of your surroundings wherever you are. And so I think that is what kind of kept me calm. I stood up and I thought, is this really happening to me? And instead of reacting immediately, I pulled my pants up. I didn't even button them. I didn't have shoes on. And I just quietly walked out of my fitting room and I walked down to the fitting room attendant and I said, there is a man filming me in fitting room. Go call security, go call the police. And she kind of looked at me in shock and I said, go. And she said, okay. So I walked back down to the end of the fitting rooms and I bent over to make sure what I saw was correct. And sure enough, he was still squatted down. His pants were at his thighs. And I rattled the door, and I just said, "What are you doing?" And I didn't hear anything. I said, "You're filming me." And he immediately said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am." And I said, "You're not going anywhere." So I held onto the door, pulled it towards me, and he started crawling out underneath to try and get away. And I just kind of stood where I was and just watched him. And as he got up in the next fitting room, I just stepped over and grabbed the back of his sweatshirt and pushed him down on the ground. And I put my knee in his back, and I said, "You're not going anywhere." And I looked up, and the fitting room attendant was at the very end of the fitting rooms at the entrance looking at me just like in shock. And I said, "Call for help." And she said, I did. And so this was like a few minutes. And then 2 male employees come running back, and these are bigger guys. And they're like, "What's going on?" And I said, "This guy is filming me while I'm undressing." And they're like, "How do you know?" Like, I saw his camera, and then I confronted him, and he apologized. And they said, "All right, well, we got it." And I said, "He's going to try and run." And they said, "No, we got it. We got it from here." And so I slowly started to stand up. And sure enough, as soon as I was off him and he was trying to get to his knees, he tried running. And these 2 men were grabbing him. He was, fighting his way to the entrance. They're bouncing off the sides of the other fitting room doors, and he's getting away. I hear an employee say, "There's nothing you guys can do. You can't do anything." And that's when I was like, heck no. And I squeezed around these guys that are, fighting each other. And I squeezed around. I got in front, and I just looked up at the guy and grabbed his head, put him in a headlock, and hung on. And by then we were at the entrance of the fitting room, and he's putting up a good fight. But I hung on, and I just kind of turned my back against his body and pushed him against the wall. At that point, he was still kicking and fighting. One guy had just the sleeve of his sweatshirt and was pulling him around the corner. And another guy was trying to get his legs to quit kicking. He was trying to hold his legs down and just said, quit fighting. So that went on for several minutes. At that point, I'm holding him, and I'm like, "You're not going anywhere. You're not getting away." And so I'm feeling around, like trying to find his phone, and it was in his pocket. Well, he grabbed it with a free arm, and he's trying to hold it away from me. And I was able to grab it out of his hand. And at that point, that's when he kind of gave up. And I'm sitting there, I'm sweating, my legs are shaking because I'm essentially like in a wall squat. And I'm sitting there with a guy in a headlock. I have all these customers just kind of in awe, just surprised, looking at what's going on. And it really amazed me because I looked up and I see a perfectly capable guy who could have, come in and relieved me or helped these other men. And he looks at me and he pulls out his phone and he starts filming. And so at that point, I just said, this is why men don't belong in women's fitting rooms. And one of the employees said, I couldn't agree more. And, so...
Wow. We're talking with Michelle Chandler. She's the woman that had to deal with a Peeping Tom at Nordstrom's in Lakewood about a year ago. Now, Michelle, who was the perp? I'm not sure I've ever seen his name.
His name is Paul Gonzalez. He might be closer to 20 now. He was about to be 19 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what has gone on? Talk about the trial or plea deals. I know you guys are close to sentencing. Where are we in this case? What was he charged with?
So I charged him, the police charged him with 2 counts. One was adult invasion of privacy with sexual gratification. He admitted to that on the scene. And then adult invasion of privacy, which are misdemeanors. At the time, this was last May, so for a couple months, I was just, it was really disturbing to me because these days you can live stream people for money. And I thought, was I on a platform? How much of me did he get? How much of me is on the video? And police couldn't tell me that for a couple of months, and they had a difficult time getting access to his phone. At first, they told me it was broken, but it did go to the crime lab. Eventually, they assured me that when he started filming me, I pretty much immediately noticed and caught him. So that was it. So 2 charges initially. Well, months go on, and then last October or November, I get a phone call from the DA the night before his pre-trial or his, I don't know, one of his hearings. And they said, well, we're going to have to continue it again, because he had continued several times, and I was just like, let's get this going. And the DA called me one night and said, we are, based on the evidence from the crime lab, we are adding 6 more counts to your case, and they will be identified as Jane Doe's. He was obviously staged there based on the date, time, and location. We can add other footage from his phone. And so he was obviously staged there and filming women. And so 6 more counts were added, so it's a total of 8 counts. I have been carrying that silent burden, knowing that there's other women in Denver that are part of my case that were violated. And, there was no attempt to identify or even kind of publicly get the word out, like this could be you. I wanted to bring that up at the testimony time the other day at the Capitol. I wanted to look those senators in the eye and say, was this your wife, your mother, your daughter? We'll never know. And, so that they added those. And now we are at sentencing. He did accept a plea deal. He tried to get out of having these other Jane Does added on, based on a factual basis. Like, he wanted to just plea to the lesser charge because no intimate parts of me were recorded, thankfully. But there was one other woman that was indecently exposed. So we added that. He pled guilty to one charge, the highest charge, and sentencing was supposed to happen yesterday. It got continued again. So May 14th, I will be addressing the court at sentencing and going before the judge and just saying what I need to say.
Well, you're incredibly well-spoken and poised considering what you had to go through. That's Michelle Chandler. She had to face a Peeping Tom in a department store in Lakewood, Colorado, a guy named Paul Gonzalez. What do we know about Paul? What have you learned about him through all this? Is he homeless, drug addiction? Is he an illegal immigrant? Any of that stuff? Young guy? What happened? Is he just a pervert?
I think he's just a pervert. I think, he needs help. I know this is the first time for this kind of related charge, but this is not his first time in trouble with the law. I don't know what all I can say factually, but I believe he is a young man who is, a broken young man who needs help. And, it just kind of speaks to, on a larger scale, I just think, you were talking about this upskirting that's going on in Japan. And, that's kind of my motivation is, Nordstrom has some accountability they need to own up to here. I did notice they did remodel that specific Nordstrom Rack just recently, in like the recent month maybe. But they do have other stores across the country that still have that, 12, 18-inch gap at the bottom. I did notice that they did put some temporary signs back up that designate women's and men's fitting rooms where, a year ago they were removing those signs discreetly, maybe to be politically correct. I don't know. But, you know, speaking on like upskirting and stuff, I think, you know, these big corporations need to take stuff like this seriously. I think about the Giselle Pellico case in France that happened. The woman who was being drugged by her husband for 10 years and didn't really know what was going on. And then the only way he was brought to justice and was caught was because he was upskirting women in public, and his phone got confiscated. And here they, you know, discover 20 years of videos of him soliciting his wife drugged, you know, for sex with other men. And, you know, I don't know if there's any sort of legislative changes that can hold, you know, big corporations more accountable. Maybe preserving video data. That was another thing, is Lakewood PD never got video surveillance for Nordstrom Rack, and when the prosecutors tried to ask for it, it was already deleted and gone. You know, I feel like big corporations need to, if an act of crime happens on your premises, I feel like they should, by law, have to preserve that data on that date and time. So there's so much with this case, and you know, I really, when I went to talk about 1312, and I was 6 chairs away before they cut us off at 11:30 at night, so I didn't get up there to speak, but I really wanted to speak to my case and my personal experience. I feel like my faith and my values would have been expressed throughout the day. So I really, you know, I think this bill was written so broadly that it's going to make it even harder for women like me to fight for what's right. I think it removes clear sex-based protections, and it's going to increase the risks for our women and girls, you know, not more than just redefining parental boundaries. It's just an ideological overreach. And, you know, I don't know how a woman like me seeks accountability in a system that is increasingly protecting ideology over public safety. And it's just really scary where we're at in Colorado. You know, our laws are perpetuating the societal breakdown of the norms. And I think 1312 is going to further those harms. So, yeah.
That is Michelle Chandler. She caught a Peeping Tom just about a year ago, trying to get upskirt videos of her while she was changing at Nordstrom Rack. There's going to be a sentencing next week. If things work out with your schedule, maybe you can join us after the sentencing and we can talk more about the perpetrator, Paul Gonzalez, and more. And I appreciate what you're saying about the Nordstrom Rack not taking enough, or any corporation not taking enough steps in order to prevent crime or to preserve evidence, because we've often talked on the Jeff and Bill show about how even things like shoplifting, many stores are taking the position of don't stop them, let them leave the store because we will be held liable. So they're coming from a perspective, in my opinion, of let the crime happen in the store, because if we get involved, we are now liable. So it is easier for them to allow the crime to happen than actually do anything to prevent it from happening in the first place. And I think that's a real problem that we're getting to as far as our law enforcement. But Michelle, you also talked about the guy that was coming in, Paul. Now, I just want to kind of outline, I understand the connection to 1312. Was Paul dressed transgender? Was Paul trying to be a woman at that time? Was he dressed feminine in any way, shape, or form?
No, he was not.
I appreciate that. And that's the only reason, and you and I might actually, I know Jeff and I disagree on the transgender issue, and you and I might even disagree on some of the transgender issue. I am a supporter of the community, but one of the things that I do agree with you is that as far as changing rooms, dressing rooms, locker rooms, that still does need to be segregated in large portions by biology, not by how someone is identifying as gender. And this is why. This is exactly the reason why I think this is the perfect example that this is a person that did this crime without having to put on a dress or pretend to be a woman or anything else. That the perv is going to perv. And so there does have to be that boundary. And I think that as a society, we are doing we're being disingenuous by not trying to find a space for the transgender, but I do say that the women need to make the rules about their private spaces. That is not about the rest of society. That women like you want to have that separate private space for changing in a department store, for going to the bathroom, or changing at any sort of a workout facility or any doctor's office or anywhere else. Yes, all of you should be afforded that privacy. And I am really, really angry at the transgender community and those that are supporting because they refuse to see that. I think that it is reasonable to understand that these crimes that everybody's afraid of, the assaults and the upskirting that you're a victim of, can happen regardless of whether or not the person presents themselves as male or female. We need to understand that the crimes happen. And it doesn't matter if they're transgender or not. And assuming they're going to commit the crime because they're transgender doesn't necessarily happen, because here's a person that is a dude. And I think you're right that he absolutely was there fishing. He was waiting. He was waiting for someone that went in and he saw an opportunity. Now, Michelle, I want to kind of dial in just for a second for you on the personal experience. This has got to have shaken your faith in our society at its core. How has this changed your perception, how you deal with people just wandering around in public? You had someone try to violate you in a very, very personal manner in a public space. How has this changed how you experience life? How has this changed how you wander around in your daily life? What impact has it had on you personally?
Well, like I was saying, I kind of always am aware of my surroundings everywhere I go. If I sit in a restaurant, I don't sit with my back to the door if I don't have to. But one thing that has really come out of this that I'm so grateful for is the Gracie brothers. Henry Gracie reached out to me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and offered me and my family free self-defense training. And actually has offered me free training at his gym. I go to a gym. He has 250 gyms all over the country. But they do have a women empowered program that just is for women and teaches you just self-defense moves. So I have started doing that. I'm absolutely enjoying that. I think, that makes me feel more confident because, I am in rough parts of Denver every week, multiple times, working with women in recovery. And, I'm in places where, most people don't want to go, on the streets of Lakewood. And so it just has given me a confidence that, I could protect myself. I guess more at an emotional level, it's really frustrating, that a system is more concerned over procedure than protection. Speaking to, like big corporations. The thing is, like with Nordstrom Rack, their employees came and helped me. And while I was restraining this guy and holding him in a headlock, and after I had his phone and he gave up, he was like, "Can I just sit down? I'm not going to go anywhere." And one of the employees said, "Let's just let him sit down. We'll hold him." And I said, "You better not let him go." And so I let him sit down, and one of the employees sat on his feet. Another employee held his arm behind his back. I took that opportunity to go change, put my clothes on, get myself back together, and then I walked back out, and I stood there between Paul and the exit so he wouldn't get away. So they're holding him, and that's when management comes back and says, "You guys need to remove yourself from the situation." And I looked at them, the employees looked at the management, and I said, "You have got to be kidding me." I said, "You let people walk out these doors for shoplifting. What's next? Where do you draw the line? Like, this could be your mother, your wife, your daughter. I cannot believe you're going to tell them to let him go." Like,
and I got to be honest, that's like Nordstrom all of a sudden becoming party to this guy being able to keep those videos.
Yes, so she
and then
looked
put
at
them
me.
up online or something. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
She looked at me and she said, "If you want to continue holding him until the police arrive, that's up to you." And then she looked at her employees and said, "But as employees, you need to remove yourself immediately." And one of them looked up at me and he was like, "Are you going to be okay?" I said, "Get on your stomach," to Paul. and got him on his stomach, and I put his hands behind his back, and I pinned his elbows with my knees, and I said, I got all day. And so I sat there it was 30 minutes, this whole process, because I have more video footage and pictures and the date stamps and stuff. It was 30 minutes before the police arrived, and Lakewood PD is across the street, literally. I don't know that Nordstrom called immediately. I feel like they wanted him to just get away so they don't deal with it. And so they need to be held accountable for, when an act of crime happens on your premises.
Yeah.
And the fact that they helped
facilitate
and then
his
put me back in
escape.
harm's way.
Unbelievable. Yeah. That's Michelle Chandler. She caught a Peeping Tom at Nordstrom's in Lakewood. It's we're about to go to sentencing on this case. Michelle, we've only got a few more minutes here, but I want to address men out there, because I feel like in this battle to protect women from having men compete in their sports, from protecting women from men invading their privacy and places like bathrooms and locker rooms, it's kind of fallen upon women like Riley Gaines to try to fight this. Where are the guys? You had to put your knee on this guy's back and be there for nearly 30 minutes until police arrived. What's your message to men out there?
Well, that's something I'd have to think through before I speak. I think they need to stand up for what's right and what's true and not be afraid. It's funny that you mentioned Riley Gaines. She reached out to me immediately after this happened. I think every person should be accountable for their words and actions. And men need to stand up. We need men to be men. I think that's part of the issue here with, having a young man who is probably wrapped up in pornography. I don't know, but what makes you go sit in a fitting room and want to video women undressing? I think there's a breakdown in society. There's a breakdown in families, and it's a breakdown in, absent fathers and men being men and leading their families and leading this country and standing up for what's right and true,
That's Michelle Chandler. She is a hero defending this community against pervs like Paul Gonzalez. Michelle, thank you for what you did that day. You saved those videos of those 6 girls from getting out online. You came down to testify to protect women's spaces down at the state capitol. You are a community leader. Please come back, update us on the result of the sentencing. But we really, and the text messages are coming in. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. People really appreciate hearing from you today.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's Michelle Chandler. You can follow her on Instagram, by the way, at Michelle, or MICHANDLER 5. Just type in Michelle Chandler. She's there. She's got updates on this whole case, but she really is fantastic, and I appreciate her taking time to be here today.
Yeah, that was very kind of her. Very kind.
All right, we'll continue. Feel free to join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. People calling for her to sue Nordstrom's.
The fact that they came over and they removed the employees at that point, in which this isn't about a crime against the store. They're not stealing property.
Yes.
This is a personal. Point. This is a potential, you're on the idea of a sexual assault, and you're going to say that's okay inside the store? Yeah, I got some questions about Nordstrom.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Michelle Chandler. She was the mom that caught a Peeping Tom in the Nordstroms in Belmar, pinned him down for about 25, nearly 30 minutes, waiting for police to get there, fought this guy. And a lot of questions around how Nordstrom responded, because at one point she said that even though the male employees had helped pin this guy down, management came in and said no, you got to release him.
Yeah,
we can't be liable here.
I was just talking with our poet laureate, Jeff Hildebrandt, who's prepping up. He was doing morning stretches to make sure that he's ready for the show. But we're talking about the fact that if I was working at Nordstrom and they told me, no, you got to let them go. You got to let them, you can't do anything here. I would have been of the opinion that, nope, I'm staying right here. Write me up for this. Write me up. I dare you to write me up for this, to say that I refuse to go back and hang up slacks because someone had a Peeping Tom that we caught in one of the dressing rooms. Yeah, I dare you to write me up for that one. Yeah, let's take that one.
Let's go to the phone lines. I guess Carol used to work there. Let's talk about policies and procedures. Carol Lakewood, thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning, Carol.
Oh, yeah. How are you guys? I worked at that rack at 2018, and that's when they started doing the dressing rooms. And I was sort of against it because they said the men can now go in both sides. So I was sort of against it. And I was they had people doing it off and on. And when I was not doing it, I actually told the men to go to the left and the women go to the right. So it doesn't surprise me what's going on with these dressing rooms, because I worked for Neiman Marcus in 2015. Then from there I went to Dillard's in 2016. And then I went to Nordstrom Rack up the street from where we lived. And I was very nervous about the whole situation that was going on there. So it didn't surprise me what she went through, because it just doesn't make sense to let the men and the women go on the same side. So I actually worked there from 2018 to almost 2020, and then I left, but they were still doing it. So it's weird how they were doing that type of situation, and I didn't agree with it. So, and then when I left, I told them they shouldn't be doing it.
I mean, it's a safety issue, right? It's a safety issue, and even Bill agrees with us on this, that you got to create space, separate biological sexes. It's about safety. Carol, I sure appreciate it. We're up against the break.
Carol.
We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking a case that happened last Mother's Day where a Lakewood woman faced a Peeping Tom. And she reminded me, too, that some of the witnesses reported seeing a knife that the guy had on him. But he was filming at the Nordstrom Rack in Lakewood. She ended up catching him, putting him in a headlock, having to wait 25 minutes for the police to get there,
And
even though they
Nordstrom
were
saying-
across the street.
Yeah, and Nordstrom saying, maybe let him go. What?
And the
Really?
guy ended up having videos of 6 other women on his phone that
Nordstrom
would have ended up
evidently-
online.
Yeah, Nordstrom evidently not so concerned about that part.
Golly.
Yeah, great. Good
Let's
job.
go to Michael in Inglewood. Good morning, Michael. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, Jeff, I watched you Wednesday night being a great MC, or Wednesday day being a great MC at the Capitol. Appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
You know, all these liberal, communist legislators at our state house say, oh, we can take your guns because the police are there to protect you. Well, just like we've all heard, they're not here to protect us. They're historians. They're not there, case in point, 20 minutes to show up to this assault. We've got to be able to protect ourselves, whether it be through the jiu-jitsu that she's learning or whether it be through our Second Amendment rights or the burner, whatever the case may be, because the police are not, as much as they want to be there for you, they can't be there for you. And our legislatures are completely wrong.
Michael, that's a really good point, and it goes back to that old saying that God didn't make men and women equal, Samuel Colt did. Here you have a guy that apparently possibly had a knife with him, 19-year-old male. It took her and 3 other people to hold him down, and thank God she was trained in jiu-jitsu to be able to deal with this, but if not, I mean, imagine your mom having to deal with this guy. You know, taking a video up while she's trying to change and then trying to stop him. No police around. No help from Nordstrom themselves. How can a 75-year-old woman protect herself? Of course she needs to be armed in order to do that. And thank God this guy didn't do anything worse. But if he wanted to assault somebody, I mean, it's going to take 20 minutes for the police to get there? Come on. You're exactly right, Michael. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Thanks for saying hi, by the way, down at the state capitol. It's always great to see folks out there. And glad, I think I know exactly who Michael was.
Oh, that's cool.
And we were talking about maybe Michael running for office. So
that could be interesting.
Could change things around, Michael.
Oh, nice.
So I hope you'll explore that. But, yeah, this is just a crazy case. And I think, to your point, Bill, the fact that Nordstrom's let those guys go or encouraged their employees to let the guy go when he had evidence that he's harming other women?
Yes. And he's not stealing
Call Dan
something.
Caplis.
Yes, he is trying to harm other women.
Yep.
And Nordstrom's like, I can't do anything. What the hell?
Crazy. All right, we got Pete Boyles up next. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. Phone calls still coming in. Text messages still coming in. By the way, Michelle texted us, Bill. This is Michelle Chandler, the mother that put the knee in the dude's back that was a Peeping Tom at the Nordstroms
and
held him down for 25 minutes.
Listen to the show. Now we need to kick Bill's ass.
She reminded me she did not know martial arts prior to this incident.
Interesting.
She knows it now. She was just a plain old mama bear of 5.
Wow. I love that one. And I love the fact that she's doing the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Gracie form.
Yeah.
If you're looking at some personal protection, Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga are going to be the best opportunities if you're just looking for personal self-defense through martial arts. Lots of martial arts can add a whole bunch of extra stuff to your life. But if you're just looking at, I need to be able to keep myself safe in these situations, those two I would personally rank at the top of the list. Mostly judo because it is close combat. It's 12 inches and in. And so it's a lot of stuff in which that's the experience you're going to have as a woman when a man is attacking you. So it's going to give you some really good ways to protect yourself and fight back. And Krav Maga is just a blending of all the really badassery that everybody else has come up with. So it's a wonderful utilitarian Swiss Army knife of self-defense.
If you go to 710knus.com, you can donate to the fight that's going to take place between Bill and Michelle, which would be a lot of fun.
I am so in trouble.
That'd be so good. We'd pay some good money to watch that, especially if you've ever seen the video of Michelle holding down the Peeping Tom. That would be some quality content. Let's go to Ron in Denver. Good morning, Ron. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. You got me laughing now. Is that going to be at the Village Inn?
Yes, it is. We're going to set up a ring right out in the parking lot.
The IHOP,
Yes, at the IHOP. Yes, we are.
I'm
Yes.
teasing you.
I love that, Ron.
I'm glad that she tied it into the legislature for this reason. She asked Jeff asked, what should men do? What should they have done? And the last year, I've been thinking constantly about the legislature and the man that has the House rules, and that's our governor. And he continues to sign these bills and give people privilege where they don't have it. And I think it's about time that we start pointing the finger and verbally directing our thoughts to his office, because here's why. He doesn't care. For him to allow these things to happen, he just doesn't care. The Judiciary Committee, and he appoints them, he signs them in. I think it's really sad. And I'll say one other thing to you. I had an accident in my own home last December. I ended up having a concussion, and I'm still recovering from it, but I couldn't help her if I was out in the public. I now know how vulnerable I am, and that saddens me that I can't step in.
Yeah, I understand that, Ron. I feel that, and, it kind of dovetails off a phone call that we got from Mary in Wyoming. She'd been on the air earlier this week, so she couldn't come back and join us. But she talked about, and this is kind of a dovetailing off what you're talking about understanding how vulnerable you are, is that Mary was wanting to reinforce for people out there, and especially women, situational awareness. That she was pointing to the fact that there were 6 other women that didn't realize they had been filmed by this pervert at the Nordstrom Rack in Belmar. But because Michelle had situational awareness, she saw immediately what was going on and was able to take action. And Mary was talking about how so many times when we are out in public, men or women, that we end up putting ourselves in our own cocoon. We're listening to something, we have headphones on, we're looking down at our phone,
right.
We're not aware of what's going on around us, and that is the person that the criminal is going to take advantage of. If you become an easy target.
Regarding that, I was at Target about 12 to 14 years ago, and they had just opened up their bathrooms to both sexes. I called the manager up. I asked him if I could talk to him. He came out to see me. And I said, okay, that's your policy. That's fine. when my wife comes into this store, are you going to go into the woman's bathroom to make sure that there isn't a man in there, and then are you going to stand outside the door until she's done? He says, boy, I don't have time to do that. And I have been to Target maybe less than 3 times since then. That was his answer.
Wow.
You're on your own.
That's remarkable. Ron, I sure appreciate the call. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. TGIF 47 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 64 today, the 710. 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
The jobs report for April hitting the wires. Non-farm payrolls, a greater 177,000. We're expecting, as Joe pointed out, 133,000. 177,000 would be the second best of the year outside of what's in the rearview mirror.
Once again, CNBC pretty excited, and they should be. Good news, the April jobs report better than most analysts were expecting. And the federal government, quote-unquote, workforce down for the 4th consecutive month. DJT stripping Harvard of its tax-exempt status. 47 made the announcement in a post on Truth Social and added, it's what they deserve. Elon and staffers of Doge on with Jesse Waters last night on Fox News. The Institute of Peace is not all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, and so it was by far the least peaceful agency that we've worked with, ironically. Of course. Additionally, we found that they were spending money on things like private jets, and they even had a $130,000 contract with a former member of the Taliban. This is real. We don't encounter that at most agencies.
Yeah. What was the money going to the Taliban for?
So as a contractor, they received $130,000 for generic services. And to Elon's point, there was not actually a clear description of what the contractor services were for. But
was it for opium?
Unclear.
Or weapons?
Or nothing. Or nothing.
Could be anything. Mike Waltz.
That, by the way, that
amazing?
Institute of Peace is right as you drive into the city. I think it's the 14th Street Bridge. One of them,
right?
Constitution. And so as you take 66 and you go right by, it's on the left there. And the building always struck me. It is the nicest building in D.C.
Is it?
Oh, by far.
Now, why is that?
It's beautifully designed. It's super modern. Everybody else that works for the federal government works in like a building that was built in the 50s or 60s. Like the State Department is a good example of that. The State Department was built in the 50s. It hasn't changed a bit. A lot of these buildings wouldn't even pass modern fire codes. And then you drive by the Institute of Peace and you're like, well, they've got a rich dad. I'm so glad they're finally diving into this because it stood out. It was it's like the old saying that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Now you're finally getting, because you guys built a building that was way too nice, stood out to everybody in D.C., and it's like a giant target, you know, for investigation. So I'm glad.
Floor to ceiling windows.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Yep. That is interesting. Billy introduced Ross Kaminsky, all-star wrestling style, this morning to the show. As you may know, he also has a show on 850 amplitude modulation. He's also a new fellow from the Common Sense Institute. He says we're learning a couple things from a recent report on TABOR.
One is how much we're losing by the legislative assault on TABOR. The other is how much we're gaining by having TABOR in place and how much we have to lose if they're able to get rid of it. And I'm sure you've talked with your listeners in the recent past about the lawsuit where they're trying to eliminate key parts of it. But what the researchers at Common Sense Institute have found is that the fact that the state has to return excessive taxation to the taxpayers of Colorado accounts for about 16,000 private sector jobs a year being in existence, with that money staying in the private sector.
Kaminsky says nearly $3 billion a year in GDP and nearly $10 billion a year in personal income because, of course, it's in the private sector, not in government hands. Aurora City Council member Danielle Jurinsky. Hey, we had Kaminsky and Jurinsky today on the show, also talking about Aurora's 3-strike law, cracking down on the lack of auto registration on the streets, and it's going well.
It's having a huge impact. I think to date we're somewhere right around 1,000 impounded vehicles. And what I tell people is it's all 3 strikes to have the vehicle impounded. But if it's just 1 or 2, they still will be ticketed and face arrest.
Too bad Denver's not interested. Hey, the most lovable gang member of all time, Kilmar Garcia, was pulled over one time for trafficking illegals from Texas to Maryland. Fox obtained the body cam of the officer, and the van looked like it had an extra row of seats.
It's good. How many rows have you got in here? 4? Where? 4 seats? 4 rows of seats?
Yeah, it's 3 seats. Yeah, with him. Yeah.
Did y'all put an extra one in? Huh? Did y'all put another one in?
No.
Did it come like this?
Use the truck.
I love the officer. God bless him. Now, I know, right? Did y'all
Please don't call Mr. Trump. Please don't call Mr. Trump.
Well, and then you have this audio recording of Garcia's wife begging a judge, evidently for a protective order from her abusive husband.
So I saw a neighbor walking his dog, and I opened the door, and I was like, help. And then when he heard me, he grabbed me from my hair, and then he slapped me. And then the neighbor, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times. And then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
Jeez, let's go get him as quickly as possible. Bring him on back. My goodness. Russell Brand, he kept silent as he made his way into a London courtroom today, charged with rape and sexual assault. The 49-year-old British actor and comedian is facing accusations from 4 women for alleged crimes that happened between 1999 and 2005. But now, hey, he's a Christian conservative, and the left wants to destroy him. And they're going to do whatever they can. He was granted bail and due back in court May 30th. Avalanche facing elimination last night.
McKinnon cutting wide on the booster with a centering pass, redirect by Lekanen. They stop. The downstairs, and the Avalanche are back on top.
That puck was bouncing up in the air somehow. Between the net and the Avs beat the Stars 7-4. Back to Dallas tomorrow at 7 o'clock. The Nuggets tried to slam the door on the Clippers.
Jokic passes up a 3, drives on Zubats and misses. And Leonard comes out of the pack. Zubac stands tall defensively.
And Brian, from the start of game 1, this looked like a series was going 7, and now it is.
111-105, the final. Clippers win it, Game 7 in Lodo tomorrow night. 44 in Westminster, 45 in Highlands Ranch, 47 in Denver. Have a great weekend. TGIF, Jeff and Billy continue one more time.
Oh, my goodness. If it isn't Little Miss Attitude, why are you always over here?
No, it isn't Jasmine Crockett. Blake Olson, News Talk 710.
Please don't tell
KNUS.
Mr. Trump.
Yes. Please don't tell Mr. Trump. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a cloudy, cool start to your day here in Denver with areas of morning light rain showers. Then there will be a couple of afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms, highs 50s and lows 60s. Showers ending tonight, lows near 40 degrees. Sunny, nice day Friday, 60s, near 40 Friday night, warming to the 70s and sunny Saturday. 70s and sunny Sunday, but Sunday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms likely. Showers and thunderstorms likely Monday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
The legend, Peter Boyles, is joining us. He's going to preview what his show's all about on Saturday. People love to tune in and listen to this program. It's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It follows Caldera. Then you got Boyles, these legendary dudes of Colorado radio.
History. Yeah.
Pete, thanks for joining the program this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. Great show. Got a back-to-back, and I was telling Billy off the air, the similarity struck me last night. This wonderful, wonderful book, and it's a sports book, and I don't know anything about sports, but it's about a really prominent ball player, Pete Rose. And the book is entitled Charlie Hustle, The Rise and Fall of Pete Rose, and this is more important, The Last Glory Days of Baseball. And it's an amazing book, and this guy's a gifted guy. And then yesterday, this drops the Colorado Republican Committee overview, the FEC government on spending. And I don't know if Jeff, if you or Billy had a chance to look at this, but it is quite damning of Dave Williams. And I'd be more than cautious, but I've been doing nothing but taking a look at this now for a couple of days. And Dave is the registered agent for something called the Fox Group Limited, which is a consulting firm to the Republican Party. But he's the registered agent for Fox Group. He's also paying himself for chairman consulting. In other words, he bragged about not taking a salary, but was making plenty of money at the expense of the GOP. There's a couple other prominent names in this as well, who have been being paid big legal bills, being paid, legal fees. There's some money collecting that's taken place. And frankly, guys, I see some comparisons between Charlie Hustle and Dave Williams.
That's Peter Boyles. He's talking about what he is going to be covering tomorrow on the program from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. here on 710 KNUS. Have you outreached to Dave? Have you heard anything from former chairman?
I've given up doing that. It's like...
Because you guys used to be friends, right? He would come on your show?
Oh, I named him the Half-Blood Prince when he was attacked. As you may or may not know, his mom is Hispanic and his dad's Anglo. And the Democrats, Hispanic Democrats at the House would attack him for not being a full-blooded, whatever the hell that meant, Latino. And so I dubbed him the Half-Blood Prince. We used to go have lengthy lunches together. I don't know what really happened to him. I think this would put the nail in the coffin for a Trump administration appointment. He's got some other issues. It's not fun to do this stuff, but my God, these guys, they got away with a lot. And now this report's dropped. And Jeff, I know you're deeply involved in Republican politics, and I think you owe it to yourself to sit down and read this. I can send it over to you.
Yeah, please.
It's lengthy.
And this is an FEC report. I know Britta Horn has hired an auditing committee to go after and dive into that. Is this a report from that auditing committee, or are you just looking directly at the FEC report?
This is the Federal Elections Commission, United States of America, Colorado Republican Committee, overview, fec.gov, fec.gov. Find campaign finance data, and it dropped yesterday, and I've been kind of living with it off and on for 24 hours and finishing up Charlie Hustle, and it's not good, and I'll leave it go at that, and people will make their own assumptions, but it isn't good at all, and
are you talking to anybody about it? Is Britta Horn going to be on? Is it your analysis? Are you taking calls? What's the...
We tried. I have Dick with me, Dick Wadhams with me tomorrow. We tried Britta. She's turned us down. I gave up trying to get Dave on. That's like beating your head against the wall. It feels good when you quit. And and also some other prominent names are in this report as well. And I'm going to have it on our website, or at least Mark Crowley's going to put it on the website. People can sit and, pick through it and read it. It's the apex. B is the one worth looking at, where I think you can come to some conclusions that are The particularly one is Dave being the registered agent for the Fox Group Limited. In essence, he's paying himself for chairman consulting. And guys, that's not straight. So basically, he's paying himself for consulting himself. And I mean, that's glaring. And where the donations went, and while at the same time he's claiming he wasn't taking a salary, it appears to be, maybe I should say it that way, he's paying himself for consulting himself.
Yeah, now that's Peter Boyles. He's joining us because of tomorrow's show, going to be a big one, running 9 until 1, and going to be talking about it. Pete Rowe's book that he's got up, Pete Rowe's Life in Baseball, but also the FEC filing of Colorado GOP and where some of the money may or may not have been going. Again, allegations. We don't know enough details right now as far as where Dave Williams was spending some of the money and other people involved. Now, there is a concern, I think, because of where the money was being directed. If it was going to a PR firm that was closely connected to Dave Williams, then this becomes something similar to things the Democrats have been doing, where they keep hiring spouses and their consulting firms to help them with electoral maneuvers. So, yeah, yep.
Fellas, it's an age-old trick, but Dave is the registered agent for Fox Group Limited, and he, in essence, is paying himself to consult himself. And I'll send you all of this stuff to you guys. To see it. And so he's basically paying himself for consulting himself, and it's glaring.
Well, and Pete, I don't know party structure. I worked for the party a long time ago as a coalitions guy, but I imagine there's got to be some oversight. Right? You don't just get to become the chairman of the party and get to write whatever check you want to at any point. So questions I would have for Dick Wadhams or anybody else that's going to be on your show tomorrow. Who signs the checks? Who provides the oversight? Isn't there a treasurer? Isn't there a state central committee? What about all those people?
I would certainly do that, but as an amateur program director, you should do it too.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that one, and part of it being that, yeah, there should be some oversight there, but as we've seen in other places, they can remove the oversight. Plus, if we're all friends, if we're all friends in the room, then the oversight doesn't necessarily matter because we're all feeding from the same trough. So the oversight may not be necessary at that point in their mind.
But it's the details of the spending.
Yeah, where
that really is what is needed. And so since people don't return phone calls, and seriously, I don't even know who you call.
Yeah, and
in a case like this, these guys have gone dark on me months ago.
Yeah, and Peter, you're listening to Peter Boyles. He's joining us because of his show tomorrow, 9 to 1 here on 710 KNUS. He's going to be looking at the FEC filings of the Colorado GOP, and this is of a concern, regardless of your opinion of the Colorado GOP, but in part because when Christy Burton Brown transitioned out, one of the first series of allegations from the incoming administration was bad books. Yep, bad books, double dealing, bad money spend. And so if we can see a pattern of the new administration continuing what they said were wrong practices of a previous administration, making different choices, but still doing the self-dealing they accuse the others of, then the hell, how are they any better? Is it just pot calling the kettle black? And this is good.
This is, and that segment of whatever time that party it was is over. We'll see. But I've been talking to some people that both of you guys know really well, and there's been some very abrupt words being used, descriptive narratives, if you would, and I don't want any of that to make it raise its ugly head. But there's plenty to go around. I'm not surprised at the mainstream press on this one. I don't think anybody wants this one, but we will see.
Oh, we can't wait.
There's got to be honesty. Yeah. There's got to be honesty, clarity in this. These are dollars. These are dollars that were donated to help Republicans win, not fill bank accounts. Right. So there's donor intent. There's donor integrity that needs to be brought to all this. I'd love to hear from Dave on all this. And to Bill's point, these are allegations that have been made by previous administrations too. So let's get to the bottom of it.
Like I said, there's people that I don't even want to be in the room with because of the things that they did, but and they get mentioned in this as well. So I don't know if it's the chickens coming home to roost or whatever it is, the end of an era, and maybe something else can happen. But this is we'll have it up on our website, the Federal Elections Commission, United States of America, Colorado Republican Committee overview, FEC government, FEC GOV, finding campaign finance data.
Yeah, and this is very similar to when Brittany Pedersen's husband was drawing a paycheck because they were trying to make voters. Yeah. Believe something that wasn't true, in the county over there. Hey, Pete, thank you so much. I hope everybody tunes in tomorrow, 9 to 1. Hey, you're the best. Oh, he's the absolute best. So he'll have that story along with Pete Rose.
8422 texting. Allow myself to introduce myself.
Yes, exactly. Allow me to introduce myself. Yes, exactly. Now, I want to introduce you to Wound Care Associates of Colorado. They are changing the game here. If you have a slow-healing cut, diabetic ulcer, or pressure sore, you've heard me talk about them before. They're the group that thinks that if you don't fix the problem, it remains a problem. Right? They're thinking that if you have that torn skin and tissue and someone is telling you to maintain the wound, just clean it and we'll see what happens. That's a very big deal because dirt, germs, and bacteria can still get access to your body. A slow healing cut is what happens when you get older, but it also means you have a higher chance of infection. I told you about my aunt who had a slow healing cut on her leg. Because they tried to maintain the wound, she got MRSA and spent numerous bouts in and out of the hospital, some very lengthy, some putting her life at risk, and eventually some amputations involved. Jennifer Walker, who founded Wound Care Associates of Colorado, lost an uncle, not because he had neuropathy, diabetes, other health conditions, but because a small cut on his toe became infected and he didn't get treatment in time. She vowed nobody else should have to go through that ever again, so she founded Wound Care Associates of Colorado. And here's the promise she makes to you. Improved healing outcomes. They're going to make that wound heal faster and seal up that skin and tissue so that no dirt, germs, or bacteria can get access to you or your loved one's body. And more importantly, they're going to make it as easy as possible for you. You go to coloradowound.com, set up an appointment, and they come to you. You don't have to Google where the office is. You don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to take time off of work or even worry about getting over to your loved one's place where they live and getting them there. You don't have to be the family Uber. Wound Care Associates of Colorado comes to you or your family member and provides the treatment needed in the comfort, privacy, and security of their own home. It's that easy. Reach out to them at coloradowound.com, coloradowound.com. When you talk to Wound Care Associates of Colorado, tell them you heard about it here on the Jeff and Bill Show. We will be back right after this. It's Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Cowboy Poetry is next.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Love this song on a Friday. Gets me excited. For the weekend, I'm going to go edit some content from my Day Without an Immigrant interviews yesterday, which was mostly white, socialist, liberal women in a mariachi band.
Sounds like fun.
I got Jeff laughing. It was quite a show down there. So I've got that video coming out later today, and I'll be working on that. But as we like to go into our Friday with some cowboy poetry from Jeff Hildebrandt. Good morning, Cowboy.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, I'm going to start today with the Mama Bear Michelle recap. If you've been listening to the program, you know what I'm talking about. She saw him in the changing room and thought he looked suspicious. Then bravely, she confronted him with action quite judicious. She put him in a headlock, held him there for 20 minutes, and tried to get his cell phone to see just what was in it. Now police have charged this peeper with multiple offenses, and the store needs more security. That's the J&B consensus.
I'd say so, too.
Oh, that's awesome.
It'd be great if, after all this, they just hired Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah. And gave her a cattle prod so you just zap people that are not following the rules.
That's right. That's a great one. Thank you for reading that.
That is really cool.
Michelle Chandler was this mom that faced a Peeping Tom here in Lakewood and made him pay.
I like how you say faced in Peeping Tom. That's nicely done there. That's good. That's good. Yeah. And Jeff just wrote that this morning, too. That's the crazy part. That's the part that, kind of breaks my brain at times, that how he just, he listened to the story of Michelle and went back there and composed that for us in our audience. That's awesome. That's so cool.
The hardest part was finding a computer that worked so I could print it out. But
Yeah, sometimes. Behind the scenes
He's
here.
old school.
Yeah, sometimes.
He's so old, he uses paper.
Well, and the weird part is, behind here, sometimes, yes, finding a printer that's going to print out what you need can be a little bit of a hunt here. Can be sometimes.
All right, we got to move along here.
Sure, move along,
there's
little
stuff.
Pony.
Among the many holidays we may or may not celebrate this month, of course, there's Star Wars Day on Sunday. May the 4th be with you. And then there's Cinco de Jack Daniels on the 5th. I'll wait till that sinks in.
I love that one.
Okay. And then there's Mother's Day on the 11th. But while researching the holidays, I found one I had never heard of, and it's this Sunday. And it's International Respect for Chickens Day. That's an actual holiday. So to honor our fine feathered festival, I offer this look at a free range. We can't keep critters in a cage because free range is all the rage. Some folks are so darn nitpicking, their eggs must come from free-range chickens. Their milk must come from free-range cows. Free rangers have been making vows to only eat what has run free, not suffering man's cruelty. Here's something you should understand. Free range is part of heaven's plan. In a time before time and a place out in space, God decided free will was the way to show grace. He knew there's a risk in what we choose, and so he left us lots of clues. He left us stories in a book and truths that we cannot overlook about the challenges we face and how his love spans time and space. And just when everything was right, he set a star so very bright it shone just like a holy laser, pointing to our sin eraser. God's plan is not about to change. We still can choose to run free range or choose to walk the narrow way that leads to joy on Judgment Day. If you know folks who just run free, remind them of this certainty. Without Christ Jesus by their side, like a free-range chicken, they'll end up fried.
Oh, that is nice.
I love it.
That is fantastic.
Jeff Hildebrandt, Cowboy Poet Laureate, bringing free-range chicken and the gospel of Jesus Christ
that's
together.
Amazing, because that's one of the things that I've had this conversation with my kids a lot about, is that one of the greatest gifts and the greatest curse that God ever gave us was free will. That he knows and understands the sins that we are going to commit. He understands what's going to go on and will still allow us to do them. And that is difficult because as a parent, you want to do everything you can to protect and keep your kids from making those bad choices. But just like God, you do need to allow them the free will to make them. And it is so hard to get around the idea that God has all the power, all the ability, and still allows us to fail at times because of the gift. And that's powerful. And it takes more to allow that to happen than to create the absolute perfect world in which none of that would happen. It takes more strength to allow us the ability to fail and to choose to find him than it ever does to create a world in which we would always be devoted to him no matter what. That's how powerful it is. It's about choice.
Paging nuns.
I didn't realize that.
Bill did pay attention.
Yes, I
in his
did.
theology class.
I did, as much as they made fun of me and gave me the needs to pay attention in class comments on my report card. I did pay attention.
All right. Let's do another one.
You want to do? Okay.
Let's do another one, then we'll get to a break.
All right. This is pharmaceutical.
You said tickle.
Pharmaceutical. I hear Big Pharma has research to verify their claims that their new pills will cure our ills and help achieve our aims of losing weight and getting fit. So really, all we need is an interdiction with their prescription, and surely we'll succeed. But I also hear that laughing for 2 minutes at a time keeps arteries from clogging like 20 minutes jogging and doesn't cost a dime. Of course, this all may be a joke. It's not been verified, but it's well known laughter has been shown to be good for your inside. So start off every weekday with a dose of Jay and Bill. From the very start, it might help your heart. So just try it, and you'll see.
Ooh, that's nice. So in other words, we are healthy.
Yeah, I was going to say, the idea we're good for people to listen to, I don't know. Jeff Hildebrandt.
I love the fact that it's about the idea of laughter. And so, again, we do a lot of silly things on the air, but then there are a lot of times in which it's like, I can't believe Bill just said that, and you laugh at me for like 2 minutes. So, again, I'm helping your heart. You may disagree with me and I make you mad, but again, I'm still helping you feel better.
Most of the time you're driving people's blood pressures up.
Exactly. But again, laugh. You know, it's a little joy, a little laugh at me a little more.
The great thing about driving the blood pressure up is that it pushes all that clogging right out of your system.
Yes, right out of there. Yes, we're taking care of
that. You get that red face, the steam coming out of your ears because you listen to Bill Thorpe.
It's good for you, yes.
Do you have people literally texted in right now going, preach, Bill, preach?
Oh, that's so nice. That is so nice.
All right. Speaking of good for you, let's talk about the quality food that our farmers and ranchers are producing and the good people at the Colorado Farm Bureau that represent them, right? Not only is Colorado Ag putting food on your table, quality food, right? This is Maha time, not the processed stuff, good quality food. They're also out there protecting your water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind when it comes to water use. And as the Metro Denver continues to grow, the Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state as pressure on the water system grows. I don't know if you've ever been to the state capitol, but if you walk around the rotunda there, you'll see paintings, and they're all about water. Water was absolutely critical to the founding of the state. It matters so much to us today, and the people at Colorado Farm Bureau are the leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. Recommend you join and become a member today. All you got to do is go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them. We'll continue with our Cowboy Poet Laureate, You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We got a cowboy poet in studio. It's the way we like to wrap up our week as we get ready for the weekend. And I get to do ranch work. I'm actually hanging out with Stephen Tubbs at a gun range tomorrow, which is really fun. So,
the only thing that'll be shooting off is your mouth.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
Will one of us return? Will only one return? The standoff, speaking of cowboys, the Western-style standoff between Jeff Hunt and Stephen Tubbs. All right. You got another poem for us, Jeff Hildebrandt.
I do. Now, this is for all of you who drive to and from work every day, but think of a better life. It's called Daydreams. I'll never be what you might call a poet of the West. I'm just another working stiff who tries to do his best. I'm more a cow than cowboy, like many nowadays. We're herded off to work and back, but we long for simpler ways. The range I ride is concrete hard, my work is just routine. But in my little cubicle, my mind is free to dream. I see sunrise on the prairie. The grass is moist with dew. The air has just a hint of chill as I grab a cup of brew. Bacon sizzles on the campfire, biscuits cooked up golden brown. When the cook says, "Come and get it," all us cowboys gather round. I can almost smell the leather as I saddle up my mare. I can see the cattle moving. I can hear the trail boss swear, "Come on, boys, time to get to work. We're burning daylight here." And I take off a-chasing some old ornery longhorn steer. I can feel my horse beneath me as my loop swings in the air, my pony's hot breath blowing across my face and through my hair. When suddenly I'm caught up short by a ringing telephone. It brings me back to here and now, where my life is not my own. But when I need escape, I head past cactus, through the streams, to where a cowboy, rough and ready, is riding in my dreams.
Oh, it's a
What's
nice
the title of that one?
What's the title? I've forgotten. It's called Daydreams.
Daydreams. Wow. I think that might be my favorite one you've ever done.
That one's incredible.
Okay, I'm going home now.
Yeah.
Well, the end of the show. Look at that, the music right now. Look at the time.
I may or may not connect with that at 4:30 in the morning when I'm driving to work.
Oh, yes. Yes, my friend. I feel you.
Jeff Hildebrandt, thank you so very much for joining us as we wrap up the show today. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. We'll be back next week. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.